Yo, 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 yo. What up, everyone? Yeah, hey, what up, Chronic? I know I've been seeing the edits you've been posting over there in the Vagabond Discord. Holy crap, man. Thank you. And yes, thank you so much. All right. I know it's been a second. I'll update you all a little bit on what's going on, okay? Now, okay, so what's the current state of the game? What all is going on? Now, it has been a crazy last couple weeks. There's been getting the 4.5 or whatever it is that's out right now. Seems to be like quote unquote the most like stable version, I guess is what we'll say, right? Kind of talking about what all, I guess, changes have been made and like kind of where we're moving forward from here. So number one, I am, oh, hey, what up, Hisky? You just ran out of entertainment. Gotta keep that like content, like drip feed going, right? So, yeah, what up, Tin Can? So what's happening right now is we're at the like pre-phase of print stuff, right? Now I've got to work out my strategy here. There's a couple other things I kind of have going on that I have research for over here, such as like, what do we have here? Oh, I've been posting a lot about this adventure over on Twitter. White Plume Mountain. So I have a little plan for something like this. That I've been making like highlights throughout the old. I got this copy specifically to like make highlights and stuff in it for. I have kind of been inspired by the work of like what Micah Anderson and I think it's John Davis were doing on Bastards. But instead of making like a bunch of the old school material specifically for one system, trying to make some old school material available system neutral. I've looked a bit into what you would need to do in order to make this work. And make it not like get lawyers all excited, you know. So I have some ideas on that, and it's a project that I'll probably, I don't know, kind of look a bit more into here moving forward. I think there's a lot. Anybody that's actually tried to run any of the old school stuff, especially if you look at the way that modern writers are kind of writing adventures, a lot of this older material is very, very wordy, to the point where I think it's a little bit needlessly wordy. And here, I'll pull this up real quick just to give you guys an example. Not of wordiness, but of something else I've kind of had a little with on it. Okay. Please give me the map first so I don't have to go all the way to the back. Okay, so there's an interesting aspect to White Plume Mountain that I think makes it a prime candidate for what I'm considering here. This would be a different type of product. White Plume Mountain map. Here we go. Now, I know that this map is actually incorrect, but it is very pretty, and it'll serve the purposes for what we're doing here. This is by John Pentar. So, I was going to talk about... You got a roleplay question for me? Go ahead and put it out there. Let me see what I can do. Okay, so... This map of White Plume Mountain is very, very pretty. Very big. Here we go. Alright. I really like a lot of what's happening in this adventure right here. This dungeon is very, very cool. There's a lot of quirky ideas that I think have informed a lot of kind of like modern adventure design around like old school essentials. Especially after studying a bunch of old school essentials adventure writing, I just think that I fit way more into like that school of thought around adventure design than I do around like the 5e kind of form of adventure design. So one of the things that first made me go like, yeah, these old school ones need a bit more than just a revival. They need more modern edits. Has to do with specifically everything going on around these branches right in here. I guess if you're like currently going to be playing like White Plume Mountain, now would be the time to like clock out for a second, and this won't be the entire stream or anything like that. How would me as a DM and a player handle the faceless background? I guess I'm not familiar with the faceless background. I'm assuming that's like you're someone that like doesn't have an identity? Or was that, please don't tell me that's a thing I wrote, because I don't recall that. I don't think that's a me thing. I think that might be somebody else's thing. I would probably just say like implements, like that sounds like the player is kind of looking for the DM to inform what's going on with their backstory and kind of fill in the blanks. Amanda and I had kind of talked about this where she's not a huge fan of coming up with big, long, intricate backstories to her characters. It is a 5e background. Okay. So she's not a big fan of coming up with big, long, intricate backgrounds for her characters, and she likes it a lot more whenever the DM kind of takes the reins and kind of like fills in the blanks for what's happening there. So I would probably just talk with that player and be like, hey, so how do you want me to go about doing this? Like, do you just want me to kind of come up with what your background is? Something like that, and then maybe inform, like, have these random meetings of like characters that, you know, run into them or something. The monsters parry and dodge. Oh, you mean in Vagabond? For Vagabond, not really, no. Because whether or not they parry or dodge attacks doesn't really make things very, very interesting in my mind. It's more about the heroes and whether or not they're the ones that are parrying and dodging the attacks. But if you look at like a game like Dragonbane or Zweihander, they do. This is a big deviation for me from like, you know, the inspirations I got from Dragonbane on Vagabond. To me, the action needs to be more centered on the player characters, not what's happening with the monsters. The monsters have their big cinematic attacks and whatnot, but the thing that makes it interesting is what happens with the heroes in regards to those. So there's no checks for monsters, anything quite like that. There's a couple stat blocks that do have a parry ability. I think it was in the Warlord or the Veteran, if I remember this correctly. And that's a flat modifier, if I'm recalling that correctly. But yeah, for the most part, no, they won't be doing that. Oh, you're okay, awesome. Well, thank you. Oh, that means a lot, Arthur. Thank you. Okay, so what would I say differentiates old school adventure design compared to 5e? Okay, so I have read three different iterations or like imaginings of this adventure right here because I was trying to get a perspective on that. Not only have I read this one, and I read the one that's in Tales of the Yawning Portal. By the way, if y'all are ever curious about what the big differences are, honestly, it's just 5e mechanic import over there. I went through here, and I was actually pretty impressed with the fact that they maintained like so close to the original vision. There's even there's a room in here that is described. Where is it? Okay, Snarla's Inner Sanctum. Okay, so in this description, it says, the floor is covered by fine oriental rugs, the walls by erotic tapestries. And I was like, that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that WotC would be putting into a book, like a D&D book today. And I was curious, so I looked over, and sure as shit, Tales of the Yawning Portal actually still has that text in there. So, like, okay, they basically just sort of like moved all of that stuff over, right? There's not even, like, that's the kind of thing that I thought they might like just scrap, because it doesn't really fit with the like, what's the right word for this? It doesn't really fit with, I think, the sort of sensibilities for where they're taking their product line, you know? But to see that that was in there, I was like, okay, well, they didn't cut it, so right on. Now, as I was looking through these, the other one that I looked through was Bastard's version of it, and I want to say this was either John Davis or Micah Anderson that made this one. And this is the thing that kind of inspired me to do some of the more like system neutral incarnations of these things. So you remember the room that helped determine how busted the flight? Yeah, it's this one right here. This is the one that will tell you whether or not the fly speed mechanic is objectively busted. If you have a first level character that has access to a fly speed, this puzzle right here, that is actually supposed to be one of the big showpieces of this whole dungeon, is just a nothing burger. Yeah. Even the climb speed, this gets pretty cheesed. Yeah. Geysers and chains. This is actually a really cool puzzle, by the way. So old school versus new school adventure design. So whenever I think of old school, I have to kind of break that down into a couple different categories. So if we're talking old school, I think to most people what that's going to mean is going to be the original, like, advanced D&D, like, you know, AD&D modules and, like, you know, basic expert rules, right? So there's a different kind of movement, though, where if we say old school Renaissance, this has a different meaning, to me at least. And that I can trace back to, most likely, I say trace back to, I can kind of center that around the idea, like the design philosophies about what's happening in old school essentials. The adventures that, like, the kind of format that Gavin Norman is sticking to with their adventures is the one that I think just, for me, this makes me happy. This is like what I want adventures to be. I get way more utility out of a bunch of different ideas for adventures than I do out of a big, long spanning campaign, right? So a lot of the stuff that you'll see in like old school here, I'm going to make a video about these two books in particular, by the way. Adventure Anthology 1 and Adventure Anthology 2. This is for old school essentials. I promise you all, this will be like the best $30 you ever spend in TTRPGs. So a lot of the design philosophy with what's happening in adventures over there, they're sticking pretty hard to the 5-room dungeon structure, insofar as you can literally analyze the dungeons that they've written in there and see beat for beat where all these rooms actually are. They tend to stay fairly simple in their wording expression. Let me pull up one of the PDFs. Here, I'll pull up one for Bastards too, by the way. So you can see kind of where I'm going with this. So we got that. And because I think this would be interesting, I'm actually going to also show, what was it, Mountain of Doom? Or... No, hang on one sec, let me find this. Adventure Anthology. Adventure, where are you? Okay, let me find this. Yes, there we go. Okay, open that up. Thank you. And then... this would be Bastardized Classics. I have so many downloads right now. I'm trying to figure this out. Okay. I did buy this. I don't know where I've got the PDF. I may not have downloaded it. Do I have a Discord where people talk about Vagabond? Oh, thank you. God, thank you so much. Yeah, there is an official Vagabond Discord. Trying to find this real quick. Hang on one sec. It was, is it Vault of Doom? No, that's Tomb of Horrors. Peak of Woe, is that it? Yes, Peak of Woe. I was looking at the wrong thing. Sweet, okay. All right, so now I'll have a perfect, like, beat for beat what we can look at here. And let me get you an invite link to the Vagabond Discord. There you go. And semi-auto magic. Yeah, there we go. Welcome, welcome. How important is theming? You have a hard time coming up with your campaign's theme. Campaign theme and I think adventure theme would mean two different things. Insofar as what I've kind of been looking through, I would say there's a couple of pretty important beats to hit. These are like kind of my observations whenever it comes to like designing a quest or whatever. Let's go to... Yeah, let me pull this up, and then I'll just have a doc here ready to go. Okay. Campaign theme, adventure theme. He said, oh, yeah, thank you for the interest. And I'll come back to this. Okay, so showing... I think old school versus new school versus like old school Renaissance kind of vibe. So here's White Plume Mountain as like the map is presented in the old school book. I think there's like kelpie titties or something like that that might get me YouTube trouble, but hey, you know, we're gonna deal with that. Okay, so talking about White Plume Mountain, a lot of the old school adventures are very, very overwritten. There are paragraphs of text that really just don't say anything, and it just kind of wastes time, right? I've gone through extensively researching this thing to the point of where I could pretty much tell you beat for beat every single like 5-inch square of this dungeon, okay? I will say that as I was doing notes on what I would take out, or like, insofar as take out, wouldn't be removing difficulty in the dungeon, but just reprioritizing where the information is spread. This is a 27-room dungeon. I think it could be maybe a 17 or 18-room dungeon, because there's plenty of these room elements that are marked in here that don't need to be marked in here. The numbers you would intuit, at least, based off of like 5e writing, that these are all separate areas of the dungeon, when they just kind of aren't. And this is going to sound a little confusing, but I would say that this whole block of what's happening in here, 21, 20, and 19, are all effectively one room. But there's different elements that go through here. So, spoilers for White Plume Mountain, okay? You've been warned. But I highly advise, if you're gonna run this one, stick with me here, because like this is a really cool one to run. If you're ever gonna play it at some point, you forget about this soon, okay? But I need a good example here. So what's happening right here in this 19 section? There are copper plates on either side of this wall. These are, you can see small lines, right? These small lines right here. As characters progress through this area, these copper plates are actually like inducing heat in anything metal that passes through, to the point of whenever you make it like 40, I think 40-ish feet through here, they're now actually taking fire damage as they're moving through this area. Each time they keep progressing and pushing forward, still more damage, still more damage. By the time that they wind up here at the very end, there's a secret room right here where there's a bunch of ghouls that will ambush anybody that comes out right over here. They're basically just waiting on anybody to come through, and like, I guess you might be able to say these copper plates like activate or something, and it releases these ghouls that are in this chamber. This right here, 21, is literally just saying the stairs go up into this other area. Like, I'll even show you up over here. 21, stairs leading up to dry corridors. There's 8 ghouls wait in ambush for unarmed company to come through the heat induction corridor, right? So like, here's the description for 19, here's 20, and here's 21. I don't think that 21 especially needed to be marked. I don't know that 20 would necessarily need to be marked. And the way that this is formatted, again, the game was newer, right? Like, the concept of this hadn't really been done much before. So this hadn't really been strictly like analyzed, people hadn't super critiqued it, so we're looking at something that somebody was pioneering. So like, massive respect on them for doing that in the first place, right? But these days, we can look at this huge block of text right here and figure out ways that we could simplify this very easily, like very, very easily. There's more of a focus on UI and UX that you will see kind of moving forward with the way that adventures get structured. As an example, I'll go over and pull up Old School Essentials Adventure Anthology. So if you picked up that system neutral guide I gave out the other day, right? That system neutral guide is inspired by a lot of work that like Johan Nohr was doing on Merkborg, on work that they were doing on Old School Essentials, on stuff that like Micah Anderson did with Bastards, Charles Ferguson Avery, Nate Trim, a whole lot of people that have come before me, alright? So, what Old School Essentials is doing is a very, very reduced bloat introduction of a dungeon that is... This is supposed to feel like a jungle gym, and they stick pretty close to the John 4 5-room dungeon method of creating these things. So as they're detailing what's happening in these rooms, I want you to take note of what happens with the overall, like, verbosity. How descriptive are these rooms, right? So let's look. Jeweler's Sanctum, GSFE Rotondo. If you're looking for a very fucking cool dungeon to try out with some of your groups, I just ran this twice this last weekend with a couple of Vagabond demos. This works with Vagabond if you know very, very light rules massaging to make this work out. Stat blocks and everything, the damage structure, everything will work out if you want to run this with Vagabond. I've tested it myself. So, Jeweler's Sanctum. If you look at, this is what the room descriptions are like. Cellar. Under Jessam's mansion, stacked barrels of wine and salted fish, cobwebbed racks of rings and jewelry cases, they're empty. Iron door is locked, engraved with a giant spider draped with bejeweled necklaces and rings. Dungeon entrance. Jessam has the key, lets the PCs in, and waits here for them to return. So, this is just like a little area that's like an intro to the dungeon right here, okay? And that's it for the description. It's not read aloud text, it's just telling you what goes on, right? Contrast that with 5e, where this is going to be like a paragraph that you are to read aloud to the players. And I just don't know that that's necessary. Really, I think in all practicality, you should be like kind of trying to let the reins go. And let the GM sort of figure out like how they want to describe it, right? There's a puzzle in here that I'm going to skip over for a second because, again, I don't really want to ruin much of this for you guys, but yeah. Ransack bedroom. Giant rat droppings everywhere. Stench. Bed, chair, rags, all broken and dirty. 3 giant rats emerge from under the bed. Under the bed, here we go. Spellbook, Moreland's Marvelous Magic, Sleep, Light, belong to Moreland, see Area 8. Okay, so this is a very, very sparse description, if anything at all. But it's enough of a prompt to let you know, see how things are bolded in here? This is dropping a hint to the players of what they could encounter. This right here, or really inspiring your narration, this right here is telling you something that they can potentially interact with while dropping them a slight hint. 3 giant rats emerge from under the bed. There's the encounter right there. That's all we need to know. Bing, bang, boom, right? There's the stat block for it right there. It doesn't reference a page or anything like that. They reproduce a stat block every single time. Well, I say every single time. In the adventure, they will cite the stat block once in the adventure, and then any other time that it comes up, they have a link that goes back to this page to show you that stat block, right? So I love this approach right here. Clue them into what they need to be paying attention to, right? This is something that's in this room that can be interacted with. This is a hint as to what is possibly lurking in here. But if you kind of hit these 2 beats in your description, you're all good, right? Under the bed, spellbook, Moreland's marvelous magic, sleep, light belong to Moreland, yada, yada, yada. So, in the adventure design, they're taking a very, very light approach into how these need to be described, right? But it is sticking close to the idea that there is a dungeon key, there's a map, this is what they're exploring. We don't need to get super, super heavy into the, like, continuity of what's happening in here, right? I've kind of voiced some of my issues with the way that a lot of 5e material is going, where it seems like everything is meant to keep eliciting the idea of a long-form campaign. Every time that they release a product, it always seems like it's trying to hit this, like, huge scope of levels that people will play, instead of delivering you a bunch of different, like, tools for your toolkit. And hey, what up, Karen? This is why I've always praised books like Tales from the Yawning Portal. I think it was, like, what was it? Keys to the Golden Vault? And I think Tales from Candlekeep, or whatever that is. Those are way more worth it to me than something like Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. I think of all the people that wind up buying one of those big, long-spanning adventure books, there may be, like, I would say maybe 5% of people that actually buy those books that wind up playing through the entire adventure. I don't think you get much utility out of it. Again, it's just me. I don't think you do. And I also think that Wizards of the Coast knows this, and I think they're shaking up the way that they're going to be doing their, like, adventure books moving forward. It's just not really a practical model for content. You could hire out a bunch more adventure writers to do short burst adventures like this very, very easily. And you're going to make a lot more books doing that. I'm just being real here. And you don't need much more than this, quite honestly. 5e, though, is a much more intricate system. Same thing with Pathfinder. So, like, because these two systems have pretty intricate damage structures that have interplay with different damage types, there's a lot more that you really have to consider with coming up with traps and things like that. Whereas over here in Old School Essentials, you kind of just understand, like, something that's going to be written well for, like, one character is probably going to apply universally. And you also get the sense that the dungeon has an activity that's going on, right? Like, players are walking in on a scenario, and that scenario would have played out either way. Like, had they been there, had they not been there. Or, like, with 5e, it kind of feels like the dungeon is a bunch of just points to kind of hit, and it doesn't really, they don't really feel like alive environments. A lot more of 5e adventure writing does feel like it's hitting video game adventure writing format. So, like, some people might love that, right? For me, at least where I'm kind of going in, I love having this right here. Like, a lot more. Hey, what up, Trek? How you doing, man? Like, I love this format. Give me this any day of the week. I will eventually be talking about this adventure particularly, like, in a video. This adventure is such a good example of 5-room damage structure. and like how to really use it over the course of a 17-room dungeon, right? There's no wasted space in any portion of this dungeon right here. Absolutely fantastic. And there's a weird glitch happening on this side of the screen, at least for me. I don't know if that's showing up for you all. Now, going on from there, so I talked about the way that they wrote like White Plume Mountain and the old school one. Now in 5e, it's essentially the exact same adventure, just cut off on 2 times speed. So it's essentially the exact same adventure, like almost word for word. It's just ported over to 5e, right? Am I familiar with the whiteboard test by Robert Yang? No, I'm not, but fill me in on that. So there's another incarnation of White Plume Mountain, though, called Peak of Woe. What a cool idea. So this is, I'll just throw a little like shout out over here, right? So Peak of Woe. This is what they call a bastardized classic. What they've done is they took White Plume Mountain and they have erased anything that is Wizards of the Coast copyright like protectable material. But they presented the exact same adventure. It is abstracted to where like you know what's going on, because Bastards is a very, very rules light system. And it's whenever I show you guys the battle map or the adventure map, whatever, you'll get an idea as to why they were doing this. Okay, so Peak of Woe, Davis and Morris. I think this is John Davis. John Davis. Layout Matthew Morris. Editor is Micah Anderson, who wrote the Bastards TTRPG. Hey, what up, Dennis? The while since you dropped in. Yeah, what's going on, man? Hodag RPG and Dead Folks, so they used a lot of like public domain stuff, right? So this is actually that same map, right? Like beat for beat, it's the same map. You see even 27 rooms. Some of the areas are flooded that they've indicated here on this point crawl map. Actually, if I do this, yes, there you go. Okay, so this is the exact same map, right? Entryway, there's the fork that I was talking about earlier, right? There's these 3 separate areas that I was like, we could probably actually condense that all down into one room. I love this. I honestly think that this kind of a map right here, some people might look at this and be like, what the hell? That's disgusting. This is all you need. Honestly. Like, if you've been running long form campaigns, it might be really flashy, or like, sorry, if you've been running a lot of TTRPGs, it might feel like it's really flashy and cool to have this crazy awesome dungeon and all that other stuff, where like you have this beautiful map and, you know, yada yada yada. You just don't really need it. Yeah, it's almost like visualize choose your own adventure paths. Exactly. So what this can do is it can also hide some elements from players a little bit easier, if you wanted to do a solo TTRPG kind of a thing. You have a map that you might have like drawn up even. You can abstract that out into something as simple as this right here. And this is brilliant. If you've been playing TTRPGs for a while and you understand a little bit more about game design, you can see something like this and think like, yeah, wait, they're right. That's all I need. I can just, what are the room descriptions like? Oh, ancient iron stairs. Wait, okay, so let's go to, let me look this up. Let's go with, let's see what the description is like over here. So this is room 1, okay? This is what the old school one is like. The spiral staircase descends about 100 feet before ending in area 1. The staircase is badly rusted, and sensitive characters will feel it thrumming to a continuous low vibration. This vibration from the plume geyser will be noticeable everywhere in the dungeon. The air is warm, humid, and rather foul. Lamps and torches will burn fitfully and give off a lot of smoke. The floor of the room is covered with water, and floating on the water are patches of green and white subterranean algae. In the damp humidity of the dungeon, this algae or algae-like fungus clings in patches to the walls and even the ceiling. It is harmless and can be found almost everywhere in the dungeon where there is water. The water on the floor is about a foot deep, and the floor itself is covered with slippery mud, except where flights of steps lead up out of it. This scummy water covers all floors of rooms and corridors. The water and mud will cut average movement down by 1/3 and will necessitate continuous probing of the floor by the party as they advance. It will be very difficult to keep silent, run without falling, or depend on invisibility spells. Waves and foot-shaped holes can in the water give one away. The floor of the passage leading away from the first room is covered by the warm, scummy water mentioned above. Okay, so this is... Yeah, you hate to get visually spoiled. Yeah, right? That's why I really love that for solo. This right here is very wordy. It probably took us like a minute to read through that, right? Now, I don't think that any of this is really necessary, and all we've really gotten is a description of like some elements that'll come up later, right? Let's look at what they wrote for Bastards. Ancient iron stairs spiral downwards into the heart of the mountain, descending into a chamber submerged in knee-deep water. Bioluminescent scum floats upon the surface of the water, and slippery muck coats the floors underneath. Moving silently through flooded passages and rooms proves difficult. I mean, considering that the algae doesn't really seem to have much of any effect other than like saying there's algae on the floors or whatever, and it's giving a description, like allow people to like kind of figure out whether or not they want that to kind of play into it, right? Bioluminescent scum floats upon the surface of the water. Cool. I honestly like that description more because now I have this weird environment where like there's glowing fungus or whatever, algae, on the top of the water. Sick. That's so much more visually appealing to me. Like, again, this adventure right here might be close to 50 years old. And like, this has gone through a lot of critique. This has been played thousands of times, right? But I think adventure designers today, at least in like the old school Renaissance, are opting for more simple, quick, to the point descriptions. The amount of times that I have gone through and just hit backspace on so many things I've written because now my design sensibilities are just so much more informed by OSR material. It's like, I don't know that I really feel much value out of a book that goes through so many links to give me just like a brief room description. And by the way, this is not like a single instance of this. This kind of writing is everywhere in this book. Now, here's the thing. As this is currently presented right here, like, this is what WotC has a copyright to, which is why this can exist. So Peak of Woe, because they have essentially scrubbed everything that was the original writing, and they are presenting this as a very simplified map, this is not the original map artwork. This is an abstract idea of it, right? There's a hex crawl on here. You can see the public domain art that's getting represented, right? They're not representing the original illustration of the map that was in the book. So, like, I love that. The King Gizzard little homage right there. The Lizard Wizard, yeah! This is brilliant. I think that this should be the way that third-party creators, if you have ever been intimidated about, like, okay, well, I would love to write an adventure, but, like, I don't have the money to do it. It's all about the presentation. If you look at what people, like, you know, Micah Anderson has done with Bastards, look at what Johan Noor has done with Merkborg, Skull Fungus, what Skull Fungus is doing with all of his one-page dungeons, you don't necessarily need the high-budget production value that goes into 5e materials if you can tastefully interpret it through free materials, free or cheap materials, right? Work with what you got. The best artists that are out there are the ones that learned that, like, okay, if I need to paint a nature portrait and I only have these 3 colors to work with, how can I make that appealing, right? Be used to working in the bounds of restrictions. I'll give an example here of what I mean. One of my favorite lessons I ever learned whenever I was a jazz musician growing up was soloing on one string Okay? Because, like, the thing is, whenever you're playing guitar, you're used to working with basically the whole verticality and horizontality, I guess, aspect of the fretboard. Now, if you take one of those away and say, like, okay, you can't play on anything other than that B string right there, and I want you to play a solo. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Your mind has to think about music in a completely different way. And you're now forced to innovate and think about different techniques that you can do to emulate how you might be phrasing around in this new restriction, right? How do I make something sound good with restriction? This is a thing that makes, like, decent artists turn into fucking pioneers and innovators. Yeah. How do I feel about most of a book being long descriptions for a GM to read out loud? How do I feel about most of a book being long descriptions for a GM to read out loud? I think that makes the GM's... and that probably makes the GM's job extremely boring. Like, I don't know, for me as a GM, I'm not having to think so much whenever I'm like, you know, oh, okay, well... Okay, this is a two-parter here. As a creator, I like the fact that it makes me refine the text down into what's the most important thing, right? Yeah, go full brushy one string and put chicken on the corn. Yeah, right? So, whenever an entire book is just, like, read aloud text, I would have to see I would have to see a specific example. If it was an adventure that's just read aloud text, I would never run it, because I don't feel like there's enough game there, right? It's like Ked keeps saying, he wishes that there was more G in some RPGs, you know? Especially with 5e, we saw, and I've been thinking about this a lot here lately. With 5e, we saw a particular type of playstyle that I'm sure has existed before 5e, but get really, really popular. And this was the pressure for big, long epics. They weren't necessarily telling these stories of people that were around the table with a bunch of adventurers that are, you know, doing stupid shit in a fantasy world, fighting monsters, telling dick jokes, whatever. It suddenly became, it needs to be a compelling game, or like, this needs to be a game where, like, it is a performance art, right? So that style of play is fine, but I don't think it should be the expectation, right? This is what I think the kind of problem with the way that modern discussion has had about TTRPGs, the way that it kind of has evolved. It seems like a lot of more modern TTRPG fandom is looking to get those, like, Matt Mercer style, like, and you wake and see the spirit of your loved ones, and how does it make you feel? And, like, if people want to go for that, that's fine. But it's never been a thing that's appealed to me, and I don't think that that's a big appealing factor for games like Merkborg, or, I mean, Bastards here. I don't think that this is really... this is trying to deliver the punch in the adventure, not like, let's delve into a litany of tools to evoke the idea of having these deep emotional moments at the table. For some tables that want to go with that, again, it's fine that you guys want to do that. For me personally, I'm really ready to get back to, like, this style of, like, high action adventure stuff, right? And if what it takes for more people to make stuff is going to be like, let's simplify things, let's, like, look, I think it's going to be so much easier for people to create things like this right here than it is for, like, how are we going to psychologically analyze what a dice roll means to, oh my god, I get so bored with those kinds of conversations, you know? I would so much rather get an adventure, that adventure be fun to run, be like, great, everybody, cool. Well, I guess I'll see you next week, right? Killer. Yeah, sorry about the glitch right here, by the way. This is a known issue going on with Adobe Acrobat. No clue why it does that. Very, very weird. Yeah. You fell hard for the Mercer effect, and now you're all about RP and moments less than game, but you love making a broken character sometimes too. Yeah, like it's fine if that's what people want to go for, but I think that like I think that there's been a misunderstanding for what the like quote unquote Mercer effect was, and I think like I don't know. I don't know that I would totally pin this on Mercer either, but I do know that like it definitely got popularized because of Critical Role. So the expectations seem to be like, let's create characters that are extremely compelling and like deliver that as an NPC. And like, oh yeah, this is the one that we're going to tell to you, whatever. I see that as a GM and I'm just kind of like, okay. I think that it's more fun to like fight a monster that has an interesting stat block than it is to interact with an NPC that has some pre-scripted kind of, I don't know, man. I dig the adventure so much more than the like downtime, you know? Like I dig the exploration elements so much more. And yeah. So where I am currently feeling this out for Vagabond, if you all have picked up the update, you've seen you all are actually going to see a couple things that are coming to this update that I think would be kind of interesting to hit on in this stream. Those of you that have already seen, Wet Dreams got a complete rework. This whole adventure, I need to fill in that top portion of the encounter chart. This whole adventure, I completely reworked from the ground up. I wanted to maintain it close to the 5-room like dungeon structure, and give a better example for that here in the book. So what Wet Dreams is doing now is, if you look at each of the rooms, I've even labeled what aspect of the 4-room dungeon it is, right? So first up is the Guardian. You have your interaction, your Guardian / interaction right here. Lighthouse Beacon, this is going to be your interaction. You'll also see that all the adventures, or all the different areas, have these keys right here. All of the keys, all of the symbols right here are trying to tell you straight up, here's what's important in this room, right? The other thing that I'm trying to do is a bit more of like what Old School Essentials has been doing, and that's bolding the different elements that are supposed to pop out, right? This is something to remember. This is something to explain to your characters. That's a big deal that I'm thinking about there. I'm very much trying to focus on the usability of it by giving the like heads-up display style maps like this. I've also been working on a method to do this in Illustrator that, if you follow me on Twitter, you were seeing me kind of like workshopping yesterday, which was fun, actually, seeing a lot of people interested in talking about that. But yeah. Yeah, it's been talked about. Are we here to game or are we here to act? Where does our table fall on that scale, etc.? Yeah. This is, insofar as everything that I've looked into with Dagger Hearts, this is the kind of thing that I think some people have said is was this game made for actual plays? And that felt like it was a vibe-based thing, not a, like, prescriptive thing, right? Like, can we say why this game felt like it was made for actual plays? Anytime I was asking people, why does it feel like it's made for actual plays? Like, what's the deal there? Everyone just kind of seemed to like, I don't know. And even me, I was like, okay, so what's the deal there? If we're going to keep saying this, we need to agree on what this means, you know? Like, if it's designed for actual plays, well then, like, well, this needs traits that we can assign to it, you know? I think the biggest point on that is, like, if it's focused on narrative and drama, and it feels like it's more prompting you to act rather than, you know, emulates the feeling of play and adventure, this is probably where I would say this is meant for, like, actual play material, right? People are going for that, like, oh yeah, we really want to play a game where we get to act. Whereas a role-playing game where it's like a dungeon crawler, I think that this is more rooted in what like the classic feel of D&D was, you know. And honestly, for me, it's just where I feel more comfortable in gaming and running games. Like, I don't know, for me, it's just more fun to like be goofy and like have this kind of a scenario instead of like I I don't know. It's just not really my vibe, you know. So oh man, there we go. Oh, I was trying to pop my back there. Okay. So, where I'm kind of going with this, I think moving forward with Vagabond, what you all will see in the next upcoming update, that I think this is going to be the thing that most people are going to be like, oh, weird. Why was that a thing? So in creating heroes, I'm going to scroll back up here. Okay. The damage structure, I think, is finally set in stone. Hey, what up, ML Radish? The adventure structure is finally, the damage structure is finally set in stone. Okay. Now, some people are going to see something on here and maybe won't like it. Some people will see it and they're going to love it. But I'm also going to explain why we did this. When you gain a level, your max health increases by a roll of your hit die, as detailed on page 27. This is different from what I originally had, where it was just going to assume your health, right? Now, why did I do this? Well, the thing was, no matter what, we were never going to get rid of rolling dice for damage. Health for everything was calculated off of assumed half the die round down, okay? This was also what was happening on monsters. Now, whenever I was thinking about this, I was like, this means that health is just not as good as damage. There's an odd balancing happening in there, where whenever we're calculating monster health, that health is not quite equivalent to damage output. There's not a beat for beat like a hit die is the same as a damage die, right? A D8 hit die is 4 health. A D8 damage die is 4.5 damage on average, right? So this was a thing that there was an asymmetry to it I could not deal with. I hated that. The more and more I kept thinking about it, I was like, this isn't really good for anybody. Sure, our health numbers are lower, and I like that. They could still be lower, and we can have health and damage like a decent, even trade-off, right? So now we have max health is doing this. Whenever you gain a level, your max health increases by a roll of your hit die, as detailed on page 27. So, if people want to reroll ones, or they don't want to reroll ones, I'm going to leave that open to them. I'm going to say, like, your table, if you want to do that, go for it. Yeah, go full Paper Mario with it. So, if your table wants to do that, you guys go for it, okay? But going over to max health, and how that increase happens, right over here, it's also changed over here. Max health increased by a roll of your hit die. There you go. Cake, it's easy to do right there. It's not going to auto-calculate in the hero record moving forward. I'm going to just scrap that JavaScript. Yeah. So damage dice and hit dice should be more or less equal. Now, that's the big change. That's taken some time to get implemented. And if anybody's like, Taron, where have you been the last week or so? Like, what's going on? What was the issue with it being fixed per level? The amount of health that you would regain per level was not equivalent to the amount of damage that was assumed to being dealt out per level, right? Because we have this odd trade-off happening of like, well, the health that you're going to gain every level if you have a D8 is like 4 health. If you have a D10, then it's like 5 health, right? But like a D8 hit or a D8 damage die is doing 4.5 damage, right? But this way, a hit die per level is actually an average of 4.5 hit points per level, right? So we're trying to get this evened out and more symmetrical instead of like, well, this thing is doing it flat and this other thing is doing this with average damage die rolls. What this also does is it makes monsters a little bit tankier. Just about every monster that has at least 2 hit dice is surviving for more than 1 attack. Like, on average. That's just the way that it's going to happen, right? So, scrolling up through here, the reason why I've been kind of like just handling this, aside from the fact that I'm doing a weird like House MD rewatch right now for some reason, and I just kept having that up, and I was like, yeah, but I really want to get through all the way to season 6, and then I'm good. Was doing this right here. So this was a lot of busy work. I had to go through to all the 200 stat blocks we have in here and recalculate all their health, basically all their health, right? And if you've been with this for a while, I guess in the last month or so, you also could probably think about like Taron. Holy crap! What did this do for that crazy, stupid defensive threat level calculation that you had in here? Luckily, we corrected it, and it was fairly easy to manage over here. This is now all still telling you the exact same information. Everything for calculating defensive threat level is all still in here, right? The other side of this, and why kind of a part of why I got on here as well, is I am trying to figure out what more people would want out of a game like this. I've been doing a pretty transparent like design process on it and everything. So with that, I am very, very curious to hear what people want out of the game moving forward. One thing I will say, if the suggestion is for additional ancestries, unless you got $125 to send my way, don't do it. Like, don't suggest it. Because we are at a cap on this thing. We can't spend any more art budget on ancestries. All the ancestries that are in the game right now are most likely what will appear later. There may be some that have to get pulled, but if they do, it's only going to be because we want to keep the book like crispy clean. Like, if there comes a time where it's like this thing won't be able to make it because of this factor right here, yeah, like it might just have to get cut. The Lephus is in it. Yeah. So, what I'm curious about is those of you that have had the system in your hands, those of you that are like, hey, I like Vagabond, but what is that but? Let me hear let me show me your butts, all right? That's what I want to know in chat. I want to see your butts. Type your butts in chat. And, like, I want to know what I need to add in here at this point. I think the one thing I want to do is more relics. That's a pretty cake suggestion, right? The one thing I really want to know is, like, what is missing? If you were like, this is something I'm considering for a full-on spanning campaign that's going to go on for, like, let's say 3 to 4 months or something, right? What would you want? God, wait. Anybody. There's 33 of you all. I can see you. I see these numbers. I see there's at least 33 of you all in chat. Water and wind-based spell would be nice. I had the idea for Gust at one point. Anybody? Bueller. It can't just be tin cannon here. It's actually just not true that it's just tin cannon here. Type gas, ghost fire. I need to write something for a gust. And then, what would people want it to do, right? I'm guessing push things. I think that would be a little strong. Something like that. I'm just what would people want to see? Yeah, the art for the Barbarian and Cypher are on the way. I've already got Maxwell on that. Yeah. Is there a perk that gives unarmed attacks a damage die? That's Pugilist. That's just a class. Are spells limited to one damage type? Yes. There's like some instances where it has to be flexible, but yeah. Yeah, accelerating, decelerating. Yeah, that's kind of what I think. There are familiars and pet companions, yes. Some more relics, I'll have that. What was the question? Okay, I want to know for people that have had the system and they've seen it or whatever. What if you were like, this is something I want to run a campaign in? Okay, what's the thing that you're like, I would run a campaign in this, but it doesn't have this. I want to know what this is, because currently it's a 207-page book, and I'm very curious on what it is that people would want to get the like, okay, this is a mouthful, and I can chew on this for a while, and I can already see there's tons of stuff I can do with a game like this. So I'm curious about what that is. What additional content would people want at the end of the day? Your butt is needing cast checks on willing targets. How do you mean? Like you would want there to be cast checks on willing targets? Or like if we could get more specific on that. You would not want that. I don't think that I'm pretty sure that's in the game. Like it should be clarified that, yeah. How to chain quests together. Like now you're excited to run a one-shot, but campaign you're unsure how to approach. You just string those quests together. Like, oh, okay, well there's this thing. All right, cool. Well, then they move on to the next one, right? Like, now a guide on how you do that. Like, oh, well, here's the downtime aspect of it. Like, what are they doing in between? I would think typically is like that kind of naturally emerges, I feel like, in play. I don't know, maybe like let me see here. So yes, so if the focused cast is targeting an unwilling being, the caster must spend 1 mana and pass a cast check at the start of their subsequent turns to maintain focus. Right? So it's only saying if it's an unwilling being. Is there any way, or is there any support in case players want to build something? You mean like structures, Wizard's Tower, Tavern, Town, or organizations, thieves, adventurers, guilds, cults, merchant companies? So here's my deal with that. I think that could be reserved for an expansion, because I've seen how other systems will do that, and I think that either the approach is give them something that gives them a passive benefit that's so good that this has to be engaged with, or it's not the kind of thing that most anybody really thinks about and gets really deep into. And I think that like a lot of that could just be sort of role played out. And I did give people the like gold or the silver standard conversion for like real world prices into building something like that. You think it's in a really good spot for campaigns? You're writing one, you're going to run over summer break at the moment. Just, oh god. You just want additional content over time, which is planned anyway. Yes. The cast action part of the page, you said you need to roll to do the effect. Wait, to do the initial casting of it? Yes. You're gonna drop your own. Oh, okay, cool, man. Well, yeah. If I'm out of here beforehand, I'll shoot people over in your direction. Yeah, later, Dennis. And everybody, go check out Sagas. It's over on. I'm pretty sure you guys are still kind of polishing it up, but it's going to be over on DriveThruRPG here soon. Allow to cast from the familiars. Right now, they're like a low threat level polymorph beast companion that you can revive in 10 minutes. Why would that be in? I mean, like, yes, we can do the like, okay, something you can touch and then deliver it through the familiar. What specifically about that would be any different than remote casting? That's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, okay, well, my familiar has got this aura. I guess that's kind of cool. So, like, if they act as like a conduit for your magic, then that's cool. But what, like, is it just like aura that makes that really good? You know what I mean? Like, what's the application where the familiar being a conduit is good except for just that, like, aura casting thing? And even still, in that, I feel it's alright. It allows casters that can't cast remote to do so in-game. Alright. Hang on, now I'm confused. It allows casters that can't cast remote. Oh my god, okay, it's a 207-page book, hang on. Wait. Other deliveries cone or alignment without augmenting damage. Maybe yeah, maybe that might be what's happening there. Yeah, you can always choose either bolt, imbue, self-delivery, or touch. There's very few that are restricted. No, you're good, you're good. So essentially it's just like the thought process is I'm not sure that that's super clear. It uses your cast skill for making checks, and you can cast spells using the familiar as a conduit for your magic. If you do, you can deliver the spell from the familiar as if it were originating from you. But that's the thing. I am kind of going anti flavor text. If it doesn't have mechanical weight, like if it's just there and people are like, oh, well, that's a cute ribbon, it gets cut. We cut all ribbons. Vagabond's like design philosophy is flavor text needs to get the axe. It bloats out page counts, and it's gonna make the final book more expensive to have it in there. So like, if we can deliver the mechanic as clean as possible, quite honestly, now I know an argument can be made in the exact opposite of what I'm saying right here, but I feel like flavor text actually hurts more accessibility than it helps. Personally, if people like it because they're like, yeah, well, there's a certain cinema to it and all that stuff, and it feels like it explains what I'm supposed to be thinking about. I don't think anything should be explaining to you what to be thinking, right? It saves mana when it comes to range. I guess. Sure, for some fringe cases where people can take them away for that, sure. I just wouldn't want that to confuse anybody into thinking, oh, that's what I should be using from this. But like, okay, it's there. Okay. Any undead under your command. Hang on, this needs a...
Dwarf goblins.
Yeah, there we go. Moon Druid. Welcome. Thanks for subbing. Yeah, they do in a flavor. Yeah. Is it still viable to build a ranged weapon magus? If not, the description and how to play section should be edited. You can. I mean, you can deliver attacks through the weapon as like as if you had touched. I think the change to imbue definitely allowed for that a bit more. Yeah. Game mechanics need to be to the point. At least your reasoning. Yes. Yeah. I feel like if if the game mechanic doesn't do a decent enough job of explaining itself, and like, ooh, yeah, that's why that's like, look, this is what I'm going to call the, because this is the only one that's coming to mind right now, okay? How would you get training with range? You would take on a perk, or something, yeah. So, the one thing that comes to mind that I'm like, this is what I'm just going to coin this problem as, okay? This is the Twilight Domain Cleric problem. I don't think much of anything about Twilight Domain's mechanical identity informs anything about the narrative of what it means to be a Twilight Domain Cleric. This is so bad with Twilight Domain Cleric in particular that, like, everyone just knows it's busted good, and it means a million different things to people. Right? And they see a lump of mechanics in that class, but none of those mechanics are really informing what it means to be a Twilight Domain person, right? What is that theme? And it's so bad that, like, the flavor text is even suffering. Yeah, the night do make you vigilant, though. Yeah. Yeah, that issue runs with most subclasses. That is a part of the reason why I cut subclasses from Vagabond, to be honest. Coming up with all these different, like, subclasses for the game that I just don't think adds a whole lot. The only way I know how to express kind of my vibe around that is, like, it's not Pokemon cards. What am I thinking? Like, maybe, like, it feels like these are, like, different flavors of character, and it inserts a specific idea as to what a class needs to be that I just don't really agree with anymore. And, like, you know, I've had a lot of people asking if I was going to go back to, like, writing any 5e material after, like, I'm done with stuff on here. I have zero interest in where they're taking the game. I don't really, like, I don't have any friends that are currently playing, like, D&D 5e right now. Like, you know, oh, hey, what's going on? Like, yeah, interested in Onyx, what's going on? Like, even at the game shops here in town, dude, actually the hotness right now that I've seen, at least the last few times I've walked into the game store that's closest to my house, that's more of a Magic the Gathering store, but I have seen multiple times, there's actually people over there playing Starfinder more than they're playing 5e. Like, Starfinder, I saw a group that was playing Vossen once, which was interesting. Yeah, I mean, very cool to see. There's also, like, I mean, you know, I see what, like, the Krusty Grognards are playing or whatever at this other game shop. And there's a lot of Free League stuff that they're going through, Dungeon Crawl Classics. But I'm not really seeing a lot of local people that are talking about playing much 5e. Like, at all. YouTube takes a major cut of donations, right? Yes. Here. To anyone that's like, hey, I want to support things that are going on, my beacons is the best way to do all that. Not bacon. Beacon. Beacons.ai. My card. Go to my card. Add my card. You bastard. Okay. Yeah, if you want to donate and really help out with Vagabond, Vagabond's over here. Hell yeah. If you want to donate and help support some stuff that's going on around here, yeah, super chatting and stuff is not the best way to do that. Not only does YouTube take a huge cut, it's also a huge problem where I don't get the money on that for like 2 months. But my beacons has the easiest way that you guys can just, like, if you want to support anything I'm doing here, much appreciated. Isn't expected, but it's appreciated. Yeah. What's that much harder too? It's easier to make a subclass than a full class, but then you make classes harder in the process. So, yes and no. So, okay, like, as someone that's now designed, I think it's like 8 classes for 5e, if I'm recalling this correctly. Has it been 8? Zodiac was my last one. So it's been Alchemist, Dancer, Merchant, Runekeeper, right? Vanguard, Sovereign, Zodiac. Is it 7? Okay, so it might be 7. So I could basically write a full-on fucking thesis on 5e class design at this point. I feel like, is there oracular magic in this game? What's that? Oraculary? I'm not super sure what that is. Oh, geez. Thanks for the dono. Oh, yeah, dude, Onyx, thank you so much for the dono, man. Much appreciated. Hell yeah. Yeah, I just got it. Yeah, thank you so much. I know it doesn't play the alert, but yeah, I'll say that straight up. Yeah, thank you. Oh, like divination. Yeah, there's some perks in here that'll do that. Don't forget the old Mystic revamp you did. God, you know, the fun thing is actually, look, that is a very evocative name. I think that Luminari does a good job of keeping this not so religiously tied. Where, like, this is a light mage, if you wanted to call it that. Or if you wanted to go with a priest, you can go with that, right? Because, like, I think a mystic class, to a lot of people, that comes with the expectation that it's like a scion in a lot of ways, right? They think psionics whenever they think mystic. Not specifically like a religious character. Let's see. There's some editing and stuff that I need to get on to this. Yeah. Magus level 1 can pick up the Spell Striker feature, including the Armamentalist ability. It lets the Magus use the weapon as a trinket and imbue it as a part of making the attack with it. Your question is, would that mean if I imbued the weapon after making my attack with the weapon, my cast would also go off? Or would I have to make the Arcana check as well to get my cast to go off with the attack, or are you reading this entirely wrong? You would be a willing target. I'd have to, I'm not sure kind of what might be happening in that, but yeah. Hey, how's it going, Felipe? I do like Luminari. I think that does a really good job at getting across this is like the positive energy mage. Luminari. 4. Sorcerer, Wizard, Witch, Vanguard, Barbarian. Okay, I just talked myself out of it. Yeah, you love that in Vagabond the entire class is on one spread. That was my huge deal. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast, whoever did your like UI UX or whatever, that was like, well, the table should actually be on a separate page. Like, look, the problem with the UI UX console that you had was that they didn't tell you that the game needed to get cut down. I just think that for accessibility, a game like 5e has this barrier for entry that I don't think the majority of even tabletop players are going to want to go in on. I have you guys, like, I know a lot of you all here that come to my channel watch a lot of TTRPG content, right? Like, yeah. Do you watch a lot of, like, normie content where it, or even just, like, regular gamer content, where some people mention, like, TTRPGs? Because it's kind of interesting to see what the outside take is on it. So, like, I remember the other day, and this is a couple months ago, actually. I think this might have been sometime last year. So there were a lot of people in the TTRPG scene that saw that Mutahar over at Some Ordinary Gamers had Cyborg on his desk. And it was like, oh, wait, what? What the okay, sick. You got good taste, dude. What the hell is this? And he, like, never really brought it up, but he had it in the background. I think that started whenever the OGL situation happened. And then people started to notice that, like, oh, Mutahar's got Cyborg back there. What do you do? Okay, sick, dude. And then he mentioned one time, yeah, Philip DeFranco did a story about 40K the other day, and it felt like a trip. Yes! All right. So, like, I listened to Mutahar. Actually, he brought up D&D at one point in a video. And it's exactly what I thought. It's exactly what I thought the perspective of most people that are in nerddom was going to be about D&D. And he's like, I can't stand playing games like that because I'm not going to wait 45 minutes for someone to take their fucking turn. And I hate looking at like my character sheet, and it's like I have to flip this around and then like look over here, and then I've got a fourth page just to like cast a fucking spell, and then I've got to pull up some shit from this other book right here. And he's like, who wants to do that? Who the fuck? To a lot of y'all that consider yourselves like very, very ingrained into this scene, the thing that is more appealing to people that are not like D&D enthusiasts or whatever, to normies in the scene that want to like just see like, what is this thing going to be about, right? It's going to be systems that click and click hard on one fucking page. I promise you. This is why Merkborg gets a lot of convention play. It's very easy for people to just click and see like, oh, okay, well, this is what we do. Oh, this is like a tabletop role-playing game? Sick. Okay. Same thing with Shadow Dark. How do you think Kelsey Dion got so many people to play the game at like different conventions over the years? Because it wasn't hard to understand, right? 5e, and like, I'm sorry, I know I piss off Pathfinder fans when I say this. Pathfinder's got this problem too. Traveler has got this problem. Shadowrun has got this problem. Basic Fantasy Roleplay has got this problem. GURPS got this problem, all right? And that is that the barrier for entry for someone just trying to try the thing out is still remarkably high. It is remarkably high. We got to stop gaslighting ourselves on this. If you are trying to get into TTRPGs, I still think it is better to introduce someone to these kinds of games through the lens of like Merkborg. It was weird when Matt Colville interviewed Jackson Crawford. That was a Weird Worlds Collide moment. Jackson Crawford. Why does that name sound familiar? He almost had a stroke trying to find the select spells for, or just trying to select spells. How do I just make up a word in that? What? Trying to select spells for a Pathfinder 1. Pathfinder 2nd edition character, yeah. Jackson Crawford is the Old Norse guy? Huh. Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. Give me a D6 and a dream like nothing. Yeah. Yeah, D&D 5e is not a pickup game and you're tired of pretending that it is. Yeah, this is also a thing. Look, you want to know normie vibe, and you want to know, like... Okay, look. So, there's a YouTuber who I fucking love, alright? Who I have watched for basically the entire span of his career, ever since fucking Ray William Johnson got this guy famous, okay? And that is Charlie the God Moist Critical, alright? Charlie is one of the best YouTubers, if not the best YouTuber ever, okay? Like, we're talking, like, just authentically fucking hilarious guy, turns out great content all the time, never had a drop in quality. The guy is just awesome, right? Love all of his stuff. And there was a thing that he did in the last year that should have fucking absolutely taken off, because everybody was talking about it in the TTRPG scene for a second, and it didn't hit. And that is skill check. So Moist Critical had a D&D game that was like kind of spelljammery, right? Where he promoted the fuck out of it. He had some stuff appearing on his channel and on a second channel, right? This concept, despite all the work that they put into it, despite getting advised by Critical Role about how to do this, is not breaking like 20k views. That's what Charlie gets on him just like talking in front of a camera for like 5 minutes. He can literally make a video of him just going there like, hey guys, so I went to Walmart the other day and like saw this thing. It was really weird, and I just, had like peanut butter all over my ball sack. And that's about it. See ya. And like, it'll get, that video will make $20,000, right? Like, that's just what Charlie does. And skill check is like not able to even scratch the surface of what one of his videos will do in like 5 minutes. So why would he go through the agony of this huge production and everything to continue making, right? You love a Vagabond Rules summary poster just saying, I will keep that in mind, actually. Skill check's failure was so sad. Yeah, like, this had all the potential to be so sick. I'll tell you why it doesn't hit. Okay? It was an actual play. Yeah, hang on. It was an actual play. I tell you what, Wizards of the Coast not capitalizing it, super fucking weird. Like, well, they should have, the moment that was going on, they should have given Charlie all the fucking support they could have, because, holy shit, they would have had a Critical Role 2.0. They could have. Yeah, okay, so Charlie has like 14 million subs on his channel. Here's skill check. Skill check is sitting around 54k. This is... I don't think that there's a hunger for a D&D actual play like this right now. This is Moist Critical's like big promoted thing. 2 days ago, 2.3k views. I know, you want to go outside, bud? Yeah, there's another one. Like, oh, okay, I guess it's just them kind of talking. Skill check, season 3, episode 1, 7.1k views. Actual plays have truly nothing to do with the system used. It's all about the players and GM. No, actually, I think Critical Role, with what they're doing with Candela Obscura, goes to show that it's more. It goes beyond just celebrity. There's a little bit of lightning in a bottle going on with that. I have more views than Moist Critical, and it's official. Yeah, right? I know. Like, if I do one of my, game, my essays, I can reliably count on those cracking at least, 8,000 views. Pretty reliably. The Candela one was... I think the Candela one really blew up because I showed there's shocking issues with the game, right? You mean acting talent? I don't know about that either. Honestly. Here's my deal. So, Charlie tried to emulate the Critical Role method. You want to know what model I think you should be trying to emulate? It's Dimension 20's method, because that's what Mystery Quest did. Okay? Mystery Quest is like the Yogscast actual play channel. And these guys are actually doing fucking super solid views, especially for their sub count. 65.5k subscribers. So more than skill check right there for number one. Number two, I want you all to take a note of something. Look at what systems they're playing. Call of Cthulhu? Merkborg? Mothership? Call of Cthulhu? I know, you want to go outside. We'll go outside here in just a second, okay, bud? Okay? I know, you're so cute! Alright, we'll go out here in a second. Honey Heist? You're okay. Oh, I know. Brindlewood Bay? 1,000-year-old vampire. Cyborg? Escape from Dino Island? What? Like... Huh? Yeah. Dimension 20 really solidified the professional way to do what Critical Role started. The production and pacing are crisp. Yes. Yes. If I don't let him out, he's gonna get very mad and, like, pee in the kitchen or something. So I'm gonna take a quick break. Let me let Apollo out. And I'll be back here in, like, let's say 5 to 10 minutes. And yeah, we'll be coming back to this. I still want to talk about this topic. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, so these kinds of like how this scene works and how it where these kinds of things succeed, right? Okay, so like I think that this format that like Mystery Quest is doing here is super cool, where they're featuring all kinds of awesome different systems. There's so much that's out there for them to like just peruse and just say, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do here. To content creators playing Binding of Isaac while listening to your playlist. So content creators, this is something that I've also told like other YouTubers and everything. Like, you want to know the really cool thing is whenever it comes to covering other games, to other TTRPG content creators out there, I have, here's just, you want to be able to influence a content creator the easiest way. Ever since I started covering other systems, I have been approached more often for sponsorships than I ever did covering D&D 5e content. Straight up. No lie. Like, my general YouTube ad revenue isn't as good, but the number of sponsors that are hitting me up is way more significant. And that sponsor revenue is better than YouTube's revenue. Just letting you know, like, it's how it works. Or at least it's how it has been working for me. So I don't know if everybody can duplicate it, but I will say if you have even like a decent sized audience, yeah. Have I seen the new guy with the red telephone? Are you talking about Quinn? Quinn's Quest? Is that... You talking about this dude right here? Because, yes, I really, really like what Quinn has got going on right now. Yeah. Quinn is also bringing a lot of attention to some other systems here. One of the things I thought was so fucking funny and immediately just made me go and mute all of these, like, you know, TTRPG news channels or whatever, that were talking about stuff like this. Quinn went and did some interviews with some like journalists that were like, well, you know, we're nerd culture people and like covering the TTRPG space. Quinn, why won't you cover 5e? Or like, Quinn, why is it that like you're upsetting things by covering things that aren't D&D? I was like, oh, yeah, fuck out of here. Hey, what up, AJ? Yeah. Man, yeah, good seeing you in chat, man. 101 D&D YouTubers, there's only one full glitch provided. Yeah, I will say, like, straight up to YouTubers that are out there that are, like, looking at, you know, that have been hit up for sponsorships and they know, like, you know, this is, like, how you're going to be generating revenue. I have been hit up by more sponsors as I've branched out from D&D content than I ever did just covering 5e. Like, honestly, if you want to influence more YouTubers about this, you'd be like, you know what, you should talk to Taron over at Indestructoboy because he's saying that actually he's making more money covering non-D&D content than he was covering D&D content. 100%. Straight up. By orders of magnitude. Yeah. Sponsors are hitting me up more often and for higher sponsorship revenue. Straight up. So, you know, the money's there. It's just going to be a different avenue of content, right? And honestly, I do think people are, after the OGL situation, looking for other stuff to play. That is just, it's happening more often. And seeing stuff like Quinn's Quest taking off, oh, dude, yes, please. Covering Heart, covering Lancer, the Wild Sea. I was like, the first one you chose was like the Wild Sea? Okay, very cool. You don't do sponsors, but for a specific reason. I also get that as well. I have felt a little bit more pressure whenever I've taken a sponsor for a video. And like, oh crap, now I've got a deadline I've got to meet on a thing. Now there's like, okay, well, this could influence some things about the way that I talk about a certain thing. How do I put this? It doesn't really matter how, like, I have never done a video where I've been like, I don't have anything good to say, and I'm not going to make up anything good to say about this, you know? So you can't, you make reference content, so you can have ads in there aging the content. Oh, okay, that's also a good point. Yeah, because then that could hurt your visibility. Huh, okay, yeah, I can see that. For me, it's been like the sudden pressure of a deadline. I don't like that impacting what I put into a script. You know what I mean? I don't like the feeling of like, I've only got this much time. I've got to crank this script out and whatever. Not really my, I don't like that so much. But as long as sponsors are cool with like, yeah, well, this is going to be a sponsorship for this video whenever you get that made. Awesome. Specifically around Kickstarters and crowdfunding, I don't know that I'll take another sponsor that has a Kickstarter going on. And that's what they're trying to drive their stuff over to, because then the deadline is more like, if I can't meet that, then there's I'm like, well, shit, now I've created drama, right? Or I've created this tension. And I just, yeah, I think I've just learned from that, like, this isn't really a thing for me. But, you know. So, like, this is a weird landscape right now with the TTRPG content. I think... I don't know. I don't really think that 5e specific content is really banging all that hard anymore. I think that it was an easy thing that people could rely on to make content around. We even saw that whenever journalists were kind of nagging at Quinn's Quest for daring to kind of like rock the boat with other systems. Ooh, what? If you're a TTRPG, oh yeah, okay, woof. Hey, if you're a journalist with like TTRPG stuff, or like you're claiming to be like a TTRPG content expert or whatever, and all you're covering is 5e, you need to stop calling yourself a TTRPG journalist. I'll stand by that take, yeah. Because like, you need to know about what's happening in the scene, not just like 5e specific. Like, yeah. This is a huge part of why like I actually support Rascal. Linda, Rowan, all those people that are involved with Rascal are actual like advocates for like general TTRPG content, you know? That actually like know the history and a bit of like system design expertise and like think more deep into it, you know what I mean? Which is why like I do actually support Rascal. Not just because like, you know, Linda's a friend. It's like there's actual heart going into what they're making over there. Independent journalism. I'm all here for it, you know. It's quite BS from those journalists. Quinn's one of the most respectful games journalists / reviewers out there. Yep. Whenever that article came out, you know, Quinn even retweeted it and was just kind of like, really weird that they put this spin on that article, but okay. Yeah, it's like being a video game journalist and only covering New Super Mario Brothers for Wii U. Yeah. Yep. You wonder when Dimension 20 will switch because it feels like they'll end up there with the current trajectory of things. Has Dimension 20 always just played 5e? Have they? I mean, I don't really watch a whole lot of actual plays, but that's just because it's just not really for me all that much. You like Rascal's layout, it's pleasing to my nerd sensibilities. Yeah, I know, right? Hot Pink Punk magazine. They've run other games in the past. They've had some kids on broom sessions. Okay. Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, I'm here for it. Like, hell yeah, go for it. Somebody asked if I was going to add other classes. There's 18 in here right now. I know eventually I will be writing more classes for this game. One of the very cool things, and the reason why I'm like, I don't want to add any more to the core rulebook, is because if you look over at the Vagabond Discord, there's already several people who are already making homebrew classes for this game. And I don't want to step on their toes. Like, if people see, okay, like Taron has already written this thing for 5e, you can most likely expect that if I've written something for 5e, I'm going to eventually port it over into Vagabond. My merchant, I have already kicked around ideas for how I would import that to Vagabond. Runekeeper is in here as the cipher, right? I do eventually want to add a sovereign in here, but I think right now, Bard is taking up a lot of the space that the sovereign would eventually, like, kind of kick in, you know. If it was 5e, it was not vanilla. Yeah, you're one of the people running classes. Yeah, so there's Strider, RJ. Let's see here. Yeah, so I see there's a few in here. Oh, why do I have an alarm going off right now? Yeah, there's a Thaumaturge by what looks like Icebot. Kinesis by Strider. Yeah. Orange was doing a merchant class trial. There's the Illusionist by RT. Sorry. Let me see here. The Juggler class, another one by RT. Mambat made a Maledictor, which is like the Accursed by Ross Lizer. A Swashbuckler class by Icebot. Scholar by Icebot. Masked class by RT. A Weaponsmith by RT. Cavalier by RT. RT's done another Gambler. Another one from Mambat for a Dwarf. An Evoker class by Skirkenvarg. So there's already people that are like a Spiritualist by Orange, Kinesis by Strider. Yeah, so there's already people that are like making a lot of homebrew stuff for it. And how can you access the Vagabond Discord? Oh, I put a link in chat. I'll do another one real quick. So there's already people that are making content for it, and I'm going to try and do the responsible thing of like, we need to have a limited scope, and eventually some stuff will get added into the game that will expand the class portfolio. Vagabond Discord server. There's already a lot of archetypes that are currently occupied, right? And I want to leave space for people to write their own stuff for it. There's going to be more like quote unquote, official Vagabond classes and stuff, but I still want to encourage people to do homebrew, and yeah. Have I reached out to Roll20 to get Vagabond into their new Discord VTT? You're going to see if you can get Super Atomic in there. So I know Foundry has reached out. So Foundry mentioned that they're this is interesting. Foundry's official Twitter actually got onto a thread where I was talking about Vagabond. Because someone asked specifically and like tagged them, and they were like, Oh yeah, what they say in the tweet thread, they were like, oh yeah, we've been watching the development or something, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, there's 2 playtests for Super Atomic I've got. Hell yeah, dude. Let me know when there's another one going on, because I've been wanting to check that one out too. So there, the other thing that I want to get going, I just started kind of like building up a little bit of this like kind of networking relationship, but I will be submitting an application and everything to Alchemy to try and get listed on there, not just as a creator for Land of the Blind, but also to try and get Vagabond over on there. Oh, yeah. Just hit me up, man. Hit me up whenever you got another one going on, and I'll see what we can work out. Maybe after the full release, posting a video on how to homebrew for Vagabond. Yeah. When is that jam going to be? I haven't come up with a date for any of that yet, because I still need money to figure out prizes and things for it. Well, I had considered doing an adventure jam. I'd also considered doing a class jam. A couple problems with that. There's a little bit of oddity that comes with whenever it comes to homebrewing things, and like being in my position now, where now if I was to say like, that is a cool class idea, can we possibly officially incorporate it somehow, with maybe some tweaks or something like that? That would have to be like kind of an understood thing, where it's not just like, well, yeah, because you submitted this thing and this is cool. Part of me just doesn't want to deal with the headache of dealing with monthly payouts and in revenue through Shopify. If I figured out a better way to do that and split a percentage or something, maybe I could figure out a royalty rate. But like, Shopify is so fucking clunky in trying to make any of that work out. So I've been trying to figure out some way to do some prizes around something like that. I don't know what would really be really killer prizes. Because I feel like most of the people that would be participating would already have the Vagabond book, right? So I thought about like, I don't know, dice. I mean, if it's just money, then like I'd have to raise the money for that. But yeah. When is it going to be? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't have a timeline or anything like that just yet. Just so you all know, what have I been working on? Okay. So let me tell you about what this last couple weeks have been like. I have been trying to talk with publishers and trying to talk with different crowdfunding sites. I just had a meeting the other day with GameFound and talked with their like creator outreach dude, and had a very good meeting, and got in contact with a couple different publishers. So I don't really know like streaming game design process on like, oh yeah, I'm gonna reach out to these people and talk about that side of it, right? The other cool thing that I've done, yeah, I'll go on ahead and talk about this. Oh, here. Okay, so I posted this up in the Vagabond Discord. I actually got in contact with a dice manufacturer and submitted designs for what the Vagabond Kickstarter dice would look like. So the dice set for Vagabond is not going to be like your standard TTRPG dice set. what it's going to be, because Vagabond doesn't use the percentile die for like anything at all. It won't include a percentile die, and these are all just like factory roughs where they were like trying to figure out, you know, the kind of pigment and like sparkle or whatever, the kind of flake that I would want in it. I wanted it all to match the book kind of trade dress that I'd come up with so far. And so I reached out, and this is from Die Hard Dice. I've been talking with them for a little while, and I'm incredibly happy in seeing what they've already sent. And the only thing I kind of sent back was, maybe this could be a little bit darker, maybe a little bit more of like the blue and green kind of pop, but like, oh, this is so close to a home run on the first try. Like, you can still see the like Vagabond blue, green kind of like in here. Like, oh, that is so sick. Oh my god, already I was just like, ah. Okay, so they've already sent me price structures on all this stuff. So not everything involved with getting this game off the ground has been like, oh yeah, I'm just working in the InDesign document. A lot of it's been talking stuff like this out. So I'm looking at adding in the dice set. I'm also trying to figure out a publisher that could do not just a GM screen, but a solo play screen. So there we go. This would be a screen that you would use similar to a DM or GM screen whenever you're doing solo play, that has the like world tools and travel rules, all that stuff that are there on the screen. And I thought about doing like, so if you've seen, there's a adventure that's in here called Ruinous League. I even thought about like, how cheap would it be to actually get Ruinous League as a screen, not like a like not included in a book, but it's just a screen that you have up in front of you, right? I don't think pricing on that would ever really work out, because the case binding and everything that would take is just, it's, yeah. But I will probably include it as like inserts of some kind, that if you wanted to put it into a screen, you could. And so the adventure is right up there in front of you. And yeah. So it's been work. Maybe if I ever worked on a campaign setting, a prize could be getting to design a place person or a bit of lore for it. I mean, right now, so here's my thing. I think it's very cool to, I think it's really cool to get people involved, and to see that like third-party creation and all that stuff. Whenever it gets more into creating official products, it gets a little bit hazier. Bringing people on as like contract workers is one thing, but the promise of like, if you submit something to this game jam, then in the future we'll bring you on to write this thing specifically. I don't know. I'm not like really big on that. I would rather the game jam be a thing where it's like, here's the thing that you do, that's really cool, here's the immediate reward you get for winning the game jam or whatever, right? Like, anything that places here gets this, this, and this. And have it be an immediate reward, not the like, kick that thing out into the future, you know? Now I'm getting into spec work territory. Oh, what, you mean like, production work? Because if that's the case, yeah. Now, here is... Yeah, no, we need to... Here. Hang on. Current. Okay. I'll just outline this real quick. So... All right. So let me tell y'all where I currently am with Vagabond's book and what my current thought is on this. There's one thing to this that I'm not a huge fan of right now. We are still incredibly low on monster artwork. Okay. Let's say this is cons, right? And likely need about, I'm just going to put an estimate, 5K to fill that section. This isn't going to be for every single monster, but it's the artwork that I think would feature for the big cool ones. There's a couple different spots where I could think about, like, there's more artwork that we need like some spot fill stuff in, but the big worry for me right now is that we're this low on monster artwork. I've heard some people suggest, like, why not just go through Drive-Thru RPG to get that sort of stuff. A lot of the look of the book has already been informed by Maxwell Polikoff, and I really want to keep Maxwell involved with everything throughout the look. If I suddenly started featuring, like, okay, so like if I put a lot of like Dean Spencer's artwork into it, Dean Spencer's art has been so used by so many other projects that it almost just sticks out a bit, right? I would rather everything feel unique to Vagabond. And I know that this is like a me being kind of I feel like I need to be a special bitch or something like that, right? I want the artwork to still feel like it's unified with like the rest of the game, you know. I'm still going in this direction. Is there cover page artwork in the works? Yes. Yes, that is still in the works. This is my biggest hurdle right now to printing, is that we still don't have all the artwork done. There's still empty spots even in the classes alone and some of the ancestries. This was a big pushback I got whenever I was talking about like making or like pulling Beast Folk. So the whole thing that came to it with Beast Folk, I guess here, yeah, we'll get into that, right? All right. The Beast Folk controversy explained. Sure, there's the YouTube thumbnail. All right. Okay. Beast Folk are uncommon, I guess we'll say at the least, to pulp fantasy worlds. Okay. Uncommon. All right. Now, all ancestries will have an iconic piece of art featured with them. The old Beast Folk design Beast Folk trait mechanic, there we go, clashed with the current design for Ancestry. Let me explain this right here, because some people are still like, I've gotten some pushback on like, why was the change so big here? So whenever I was running Beast Folk with people, or someone would pick one up in playtest, the thing that would happen is that they weren't necessarily thinking like, yes, I want to play, let's just say a beaver Beast Folk, and therein, these are the traits that I should hit for that, right? No. Instead, they were doing things like, I'm this chimeric animal thing that I know one of them in particular was a lion that had wings that I think Pike was playing. And I was like, okay. So, like, you took that because you wanted the flight. Everybody knows that. Whenever I did the playtest with Treant Monk, one of the pieces of feedback that he gave was, by looking at all the choices and what I could do with a build with Beast Folk, I feel like I would be objectively worse by taking any other ancestry. Like, period. You feel a little called out for Beamer Folk, you just made one for 5e, you should check your main character, what are they, syndrome over there. No. Oh, man. You can tell I've been watching too much like Northern Lion. Now, so whenever optimizers were taking a look at what their character would be, what character build they were looking at, Beast Folk were just the best option. Because they could get any trait that they would want out of that. And some of them were just way better than anything you could do by like virtue of some of the perks or whatever, right? So because the bevy of options was so big and you could tailor it to any build whatsoever, optimizers are just going to look at Beast Folk and be like, that's the thing we have to take all the time right there. I don't like that. I'm not a huge fan. In any way that I was trying to make a compromise on this, it was going to fuck with this right here. Because I could break it apart. So like, breaking this apart would wind up creating dozens of separate ancestries that would each require a new piece of artwork. Right there. So I had a lot of people that were complaining about the fact that I was pulling the Beast Folk. Not a lot of people that were willing to back up their frustration by paying for an art piece. All right. So I did not feel like this was so important to a pulp fantasy game to start taking money out of my own pocket in order to keep putting these back in. Right? Hey, what up, Krieg? Just steal AI furry art? Don't see the problem. Yeah, no. I'm not featuring any AI art at any point in the book. It's a personal principle of mine. People can either agree or disagree or whatever. I think AI art just generally does not look good. I think it all is trying to emulate a very specific look that it doesn't hit the style I'm going for. I don't think it's going to be able to ever really do what I want it to do. Or at least it's not capable of it now. And I just would rather keep everything down to human-based art. Yeah. I like creating things. And I like working with people that also like creating things. I like making cool things with people. Yeah. So I am also just kind of done fighting that fight. The fucking whiff I did in December was enough for me to be like, you know what? I just need to keep my mouth fucking shut and stay in my lane. Like, I'm like, doesn't matter who's telling me what their credentials are, what the fuck ever about the AI art situation. The hurt that like a accusation can do like that is just it's not right. So like I'm done fighting that fight. It's not. For me, it's not the kind of look that I'm going for with this book. And I just personally won't be using it at any point, just based out of principle. Furry robots are quite popular, you see. Yeah. So, these folk are uncommon to pulp fantasy worlds. All ancestors will have an iconic piece of art featured with them. Keep these two things in mind. I am not deviating from this right here. I have multiple people that were saying like, well, I'm upset that I can't make my fursona in your game. I'm kind of at a point where I gotta say like, you gotta deal with that. That's a you problem. I am definitely making this game for other people. That was actually Crow's convincing argument right there. I am making this game for other people, but furries are not my target audience. You guys can homebrew all the stuff you would like to, but yeah. What are the spark notes for this document so far? Oh, nothing. I'm just using this to kind of... Yeah. So the old bespoke trait mechanic clashed with the current design for Ancestry. It was too bloated. Absolutely couldn't make it work out. Purely for business reasons, the general advice on AI in the games industry is don't use AI art assets. Yes, because I think the PR backlash that you're going to get from it is going to be so severe. Also, this is just a thing that like people got to know. Look, if it's a free thing that like somebody's not charging anything for, then like I'm like I don't care about whether or not it used AI art. Like, sure, there's arguments to be made that like it's ripping off of other artists. It's not super great. I will say one of the things you don't do, because I just got this weird email the other day about someone who claimed to be an artist with like 25 years experience in the industry being pissed off that I talked to Grim Jim and had that video up on my channel. I got a novel of an email from this person, by the way. Being pissed off that I spoke with Grim Jim and I'm platforming somebody that's an advocate for AI artwork. I basically told this guy to go fuck himself. Because, like, don't ever... I'm not his dad, alright? Grim Jim is, like, his own dude. He's got his own thing going on. Whatever. To say that, like, I should start... well, it didn't specifically say I should start pulling down videos, but, like, it's just... It feels like you're kind of, like, telling the teacher that, like... I don't know, somebody over there is coloring with a blue crayon and you want them to color in green. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm not their dad. So, like, don't email other creators about, like, hey, did you know this YouTuber you featured in a video one time is now using AI artwork? Stop. God, Jesus Christ, don't do that. So, don't. Like, oh my God. So, like, with this thing, this will be an expansion. And I made a compromise. Okay? So Crow talked me into the compromise. If I had pre-existing artwork for Beast Folk, why not go on ahead and use them in the book if you can? That was the compromise that we made here. Did his stance on AI art come out after your interaction with him? Oh wait, with Jim? Oh, I don't know. I mean, that wouldn't have had any weight in whether or not I would have spoken with him at all. I can't. There are some fights that are worth fighting. There are some causes that are really, really worth championing. And I just don't I simply do not know what to do about the AI art situation other than to say, like, I'm not going to use it. And I can't. Like, I can't. What else do you do from there? You know, I tried doing that fight. Fired a missed shot. Could have affected somebody. I know it affected, like... The only thing it wound up doing is, like, it went off in my face. You know? So, like... Yeah. Oh, what you mean is if that's the case and the person is doubly stupid? Oh! Actually, it's kind of funny. Yeah, I don't know that Jim was actually using AI stuff in his thumbnails whenever, at the time that he and I were talking. Or that we talked in that video. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I think that's just a person. Oh, yeah. And the fact that I told this guy, like, I'm not Jim's dad, and this person was coming at me with this, like, just so you know, I'm neurodivergent and disabled, and you caused me great physical pain yesterday with that threat. I was like, okay, this is clearly someone that's not stable enough to be having this conversation with me. I'm fucking out. And I blocked the email. Yeah, so, like, don't do that. Like, you'll want to know how to navigate this online scene, and the best thing that you can really do. Here's the number one piece of advice I'll give you as a content creator whatsoever. Don't ever frame something through the lens of telling somebody what to do. Everything I've ever learned, okay? The best lesson I could have ever had was very early on someone telling me, the moment you tell anybody what to do, you're going to piss somebody off. Sure as shit. Now, you can't keep from pissing people off. It's gonna happen, okay? But the moment you tell somebody what to do, you don't have any kind of foundation to stand on there, right? You can't enforce that whatsoever. So really, over on Twitter, some people are just like, I'm just gonna block them, and I suggest that all of you do this as well. Whenever somebody does that, that's also a like laughable fucking like, I'm a Navy SEAL trained Marine style copy pasta thing, right? So don't tell anybody what to do online. Giving advice for things like that, like, yeah, give advice, or like, yeah, this is my opinion, you know, whatever. But the moment that you take the stance of like telling people what to do, you just come off as laughable, like deeply unserious, you know? Yeah, telling people how things should be just stirs the pot. Yeah, this has been, we're seeing quite a few people who are, I think, kind of finally coming around to this with the, all the outrage bait shit happening on like more right-wing leaning channels in the TTRPG sphere. My suggestion is just like, look, I posted this on Twitter, had a lot of people that agreed with me on there, apparently, I guess, I don't know. But my suggestion is like, as somebody that has fought that fight, as somebody that like tried to go to bat for that, and I was like, hey, you know what? The thing I've heard about is like calling attention to this issue that is going on and seems to like not be getting addressed by somebody. Cool, well, we ought to do that. It does a lot more harm for the intended cause than it does good, right? It's just, it's not a good way to go about getting the thing you want done. Yeah, so like, there's also, you gotta remember the thing you want and the thing that you think is correct, or like the thing that you think is morally right, or what the hell ever. Yeah, telling people to do something will likely just make them double down harder. Yep. Honestly, if you want to look at like some of the like more extreme viewpoints that have formed online, especially around like this gaming hobby, a lot of it gets formed around whenever somebody is telling somebody else you can or can't do this, right? A lot of the reason why this is okay. You want to know the reason why a lot of that kind of like alt-right-y adjacent, or whatever you want to say, like kind of Gamergate-y feeling fringe has developed in the TTRPG scene? Honestly, God, I would get so much shit for this. Like, yeah. Honestly, a part of it comes down to the fact that people don't do a great job of explaining the purpose of a safety tool, and they even called it a fucking safety tool. The fact that you call it a safety tool implies that these games are otherwise dangerous unless you use it. Or, yeah, unless you're using this thing. So therein, it implies that if you don't use this, then you are a dangerous or unsafe person. So that's an overstatement of harm. Period. I think people should be a little bit more attentive on self-care there, but I am also somebody who, I'm like, I agree with the idea that we should have a session 0. I think session 0s are awesome. Awesome. Yeah, get everybody on board with the kind of game that's going on. It was funny because if you watch the video of me and Jim talking, that was a moment where something clicked for me that you'll see, where whenever we started talking about the session 0, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I think that's a safety tool. And Jim was like, oh no, wait, I don't. But I think we're having a semantical disagreement. And I was like, well, actually, you're right. But I think that there's more hostility being formed than there needs to be over the semantical disagreement. So I think it's worth being talked about, you know? So like session 0, if you're telling people like, whenever you come to my game, you're going to be in for some shit, and you just like, if you come at me and say, like, we have to have a session 0, then no, I would say that's a red flag. Like, that person saying that, like, we won't have a session 0 because that's a woke safety tool. No, that's like, I don't care. I'm the kind of campaign, I know what I would be getting out of that. You're gonna insert some weird, like, fetishy shit. I'm good. I'm good, dude. So, like, yeah, you think session 0, open door, and stars and wishes are great, but calling them safety tools is dumb. Yeah, like, if you're just checking in with people, like, and this is the other thing, open door. Anytime something's bothering you in a TTRPG, you can absolutely get up and walk away. And I understand that there's people who feel that maybe something prevents them from doing that. I would say in that situation, like, that's also a very, very extremely small proportion of, you know, in that case, I think that's just like, hey, you know that, like, you don't have to do this. I kind of feel like that's the same as, like, in Monopoly, where it's like, dude, if I can't get up from the chair unless, like, I say we have a special rule in this game of Monopoly. Dude, if, like, you get pissed off at the game, just fucking leave. Or, like, if you get, you know, I don't know, capitalism scares you or something, like, or upsets you, get up and don't play the game, or something, right? For people that feel like they get locked in and can't leave from the table or something, I don't know. But, like, with safety tools, there's also, I feel like, a decent use for them at cons in a way. But the problem is, people keep bringing up the Monty Cook checklist. I think even Monty Cook has backed down from that whole proposal. That checklist keeps getting pushed as something that is like, hand this to your GM, this list of fears that you have, and they can't insert this into their game, or they have to modify it or something. That's not what it is. It's like something that's being used as, like, a template for a social contract before a game even begins, where you're trying to see what level, like, everyone's kind of at with this, you know. But also, safety tools are not a perfect science, and anyone that says on either case that, like, they haven't figured out or whatever, if someone's saying that, like, this safety tool is perfect and always use it whatsoever, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They just... No. All right? So, purpose of a safety tool at a convention, I think this should be, like, advocating to say, like, here's what these games are going to include in terms of their themes, right? So, like, if I'm going to go play, like, Alien RPG, the thing that I need to be aware of that I'm signing up for is, like, what are the big beats of this? You know, have you watched the Alien, like, movies? If not, okay, so, like, probably horror. So we're going to assume that likely comes with, like, some of these, whatever. Label that as, like, on a door or something. Hey, before you come into this game, here's what you should be aware of. We don't have the time to, like, really go through this whole list of, like, what you do with the safety tools at every game, or take up checklists or whatever. Please check the door. Please make sure you're cool with that. And by the way, if you come to the game and something like this upsets you and you take it out on us, we're not holding ourselves responsible for that. Like, the GMs were running this kind of a game. We put all that disclaimer shit up there on the door. Yeah. Yeah, safety tools to union sounds like adult communication. Funny how that works out, right? Yeah, so, like, X card, about the only use that I've seen for an X card that sounds like it's actually a decent practice is in virtual, like, tabletop use. Because I think that, like, a physical X card at the table is not a well thought out idea, because I think that the X card, the people who are going to need that the most are the people who are going to be least likely to use it. People that have severe anxiety and don't want to rock a boat. And I have had a situation actually come up that it kind of shocked me that this was going to be a thing. So, like, a long story short, and Amanda's cool with me, you know, saying all this. We were trying out Vaesen one time, really, really early on, whenever I started checking the system out. and I was trying to like get her in on it. And in the adventure that I wrote, the adventure that I was reading was one of the main NPCs is a priest who is like very, very like into his faith and whatnot. And there's a portion of it where it's talking about like he's probably going to pry a little bit into like whether or not the players are playing religious characters or like what their faith is, because it's like a roleplay prompt, right? Part of the expectation of that whole like RPG is like Christianity is a thing in the world. It's like an idealized like version of like the mythic North, where like all these fairy tales and stuff, it's all real, yada yada yada. So like God and church and religion and stuff is used as like a system mechanic for like weaknesses and stuff for different monsters. All right. So like this was an element that kind of came up, and I didn't realize that this character, like asking Amanda if she actually held faith, you know, or whatever. I didn't realize how upsetting like that was going to be. And it just like immediately took her out of the game. Like us even trying it out, and she was like, "No, I didn't like that. And I'm good. And like, if you want to go and play this with," and I was like, "Fuck. Well, you know, I didn't know, and I didn't think that was gonna like reignite something. But she told me right there, like, hey, I'm good. Honestly, like, I need to tap out on that." So, you know, we did. Eventually, she was like, "Okay, I think I'll try it again." And I picked up a different adventure that wasn't including this kind of stuff. And, you know, she loved it. Like, we had fun role-playing that one out. But yeah, that first time, I didn't realize that was going to be even something as small as, like, this person asking if they had faith in God was going to wind up being that upsetting. So, like, I could see a reason for, like, if people think, oh, okay, well, religious themes, all right, I can see, like, angels, demons, sure. But specifically an NPC that gets a little bit, like, well, you know, like, the Father, and, like, we're going to go into this church, and I need you all to, like, listen to my sermon. And, yeah, I can see, especially here in the, by the way, here in, like, the Bible Belt, right, where we have a church on every corner kind of thing, there's been a lot of bad shit happen with people, especially in, like, more Baptist-leaning churches here. So, like, you know, yeah. What is the X card? Think of it like this. I have this card, right? And with this card, if there's something that's coming up and I'm like, I'm uncomfortable with this situation, I put the card down, and either we take a break or we talk about retconning something that just happened, right? So, like, if that were working as perfectly as possible, fine. But it is nothing but an idealized, perfect tool. But, yeah, no, damn, if I gotta put myself on the spot, I'd probably feel shame by raising a card to draw more attention to myself. I can see how it doesn't work with anxiety. Exactly. I don't think that the original intent was malicious or anything like that at all. I just don't think that it really thought that out. Like, you know, I think a lot of people jumped on the idea because they originally saw, like, oh yeah, this should make people comfortable, cool, and, like, promoted the fuck out of it. And then because it's online, if you were ever like, I don't think that that's actually all that great, there were people who were like, this person is, like, trying to say that their rape fantasies should be played out in, like, TTRPGs and all that stuff. And it was like, wait, no, that's not what was that. Fucking, who said that I hate waffles? Like, that's a new sentence, you know? People were jumping to find people to flame online. And this has resulted in a, like, zero tolerance policy for any critique of safety tools. Now, there's also people that just look at safety tools and use it as fodder to bash because they think that they're, you know, getting at the wokies or whatever. But, like, in reality, to those of us that are, like, reasonable, sound-minded people, and we're like, yo, I'm going to tell you why, like, I don't use this particular safety tool at my table. It's because I don't think it works. You know, and I think I can give you well thought out reasons as to why it doesn't work. And, like, that's just critique. It's not like aligning with any political agenda. Like, I can critique a thing without specifically aligning to a political agenda. You know, like, if you saw my Candela Obscura review, you know that I also critique progressive media, all right? X-Cards IMO really only works as a tool to know when you need to bow out of a scene. Like, and that's just, I think, it's so funny. This is only a problem that exists in this scene. Like, in this hobby. Where, like, I don't get how, like, in other hobbies... Okay, wait. Scratch that. It happens in one other that I can think of. And it's the BDSM community, which is where a lot of these tools even came from in the first place. All right? So, like, in any other hobby, if it's like, oh, I don't like that wine, I don't need a tool to say, like, I don't like this wine. No, it's just like, okay, I don't like that one. I'm not going to have that again. Have I seen Runesmith's world-building critique of Radiant Citadel? No, I have not. Is there a reason I should? I also just, like, as far as, like, Faerunian stuff goes, I'm, like, so burnt out. I'm so burnt out on, like, D&D-centric content. Even at my tables, we just said, hey, I'm not comfortable with all this stuff. Yeah, so I was getting to something with that point, and I just totally spaced. I don't know why in this hobby, it seems like there's so few people that are down to just communicate. I get that there's anxiety. I get that things like this exist. But we've now created a situation where we have vilified people who, like they just have critique for these things. You know? Like, hold up, all those safety tools seriously came from BDSM? You're not joking? Because that's hilarious. I'm pretty sure most all of them did. I think even the term safety tool, or like safety, or like safe word, right? Say, you see how this is kind of like full circle here? Like, I mean, a lot of D&D's resurgence was because of, like, D&D with porn stars and stuff. Like, Satine Phoenix, you know? Like, a lot of, like, D&D 5e in particular, this modern era, I guess we'll say, came from a lot of people that were shaping the voice of this game that were porn stars and heavily involved in that community. And, like, you know, no shame on sex workers or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. But, like, it's just... anytime you bring this stuff up, it's always like, God, when is Twitch going to kick me off of here, I guess? He really does a good job of highlighting how poorly the setting is written because it's woke. Not because it's woke or whatever, but because it tries so hard to make the world happy instead of it comes off as a dystopian. Yes! Right? Wait, SP does... Yeah. You did... Yeah, that's how they originally, like, got known in the scene. Yeah. Oh, God. YouTube, you gotta stop making it hard for people to talk like adults on here. Wait, so do people just randomly say kumquat or banana in the middle of D&D sessions? That's what the X card is meant to emulate. This is a thing that it does not have a representation of anything else in the game other than for this very specific thing, right? So, like, you can't really have a safety word, right? Because, like, that limits the vocabulary that you can use in a game. And no one's going to keep track of that in particular for a D&D session. But the X card is supposed to be a physical thing that you can lay out there. It's literally safety words from bondage, you know, BDSM stuff. Like, yeah. So, like, this is Yeah, no, the corn use is highlighting the combo that's being had. Yeah, right? So, like, in this scene, I think some people have to take some personal accountability for some of this stuff. Now, I have seen where some of this stuff goes awry. And, like, in the Adam Coble situation with the, like, the Far Verona thing, that was somebody who had advocated for safety tools and everything, just absolutely failing to fucking use any of them, and being an edgy cringe lord in the process, right? Adam Coble did cringe. That was cringe, all right? It probably wouldn't have been as bad for Coble had it not been fucking live streamed, because live streaming somebody that's experiencing that puts a different kind of pressure on that person to, like, sort of just deal with the situation that's going on. For the ease of, like, let's keep the show rolling, right? And even in that situation, I'm like, oh my god, like, you shouldn't have posted cringe in this neighborhood. Yeah, if I say the actual word, it won't show up in stream. Wait, oh. I'll come back to see his over. Trying to make use before. Oh, no, it's not like an in-game thing. It's literally a card that you have there at the table that does this. It's even packaged in Alice is Missing. However, I will say, so this is something in particular. Actually, I think Alice is Missing is one of the first decent, like, applications, or, like, one of the first games I've seen where I was like, that probably really does need an X card. I have heard and experienced bad D&D sessions where it wasn't just like, we didn't really mesh with this guy or something like that. No, where it was like somebody was doing some cringy, like, insert my fetishy shit into the game, and it was like, I'm good, I'm out, right? That's a me thing, though. I was like, cool, we deal with that like adults, handle it and move on, right? Whether that be the game is over, or we're like, dude, come on, man, like, don't do that. Some people that don't want confrontation or whatever, it's really odd that people that don't want confrontation are the ones that are making the most confrontation around this topic in particular. You know, I think that the X card is only decent in the application of through a VTT. Online games, sure. But, like, in real life, I don't think that the X card is all that effective. If it is at all, really. The Monty Cook checklist, also not effective. Because I think that that's approaching the idea from the wrong way. I think the DM could say something like, well, here's the kind of game I was thinking of. You guys let me know, like, if there's anything that's off the table here. Like, I'm good with, like, cussing, whatever. And if the DM, like, inserts some weird cringe shit, then it's like, dude, like, that's not cool. Like, then we're out. Like, you're gone. You end the session or you the game or whatever, right? If that DM is doing shit like pushing, like, oh no, you have to experience this or whatever, you don't have to experience it. The peer pressure of it, I get it. Okay, I understand. But, like, there's a time where, like, we do have to take some personal accountability. We're like, okay, this thing is gonna bother me, or, like, whatever. You know, but, like, to say universally that, like, people that do or don't use this one specific thing are like, they're not playing the game right. Who the fuck cares how other people play the game, by the way? Like, who the fuck? Stop concerning. Okay. What I was saying earlier about don't tell people what to or not to do applies here. When you're in this online space, the best thing and the healthiest thing that you can do as a content creator is stop giving a fuck about the way that other people play the game. You gotta stop caring. The amount of fucking dorks that are out here making content around like, you're playing D&D wrong. This is how you do it. You need to play like this old crusty version or what the fuck ever. I'm sorry, you're a fucking nerd. You want to be the bullies that were like getting on your case back whenever you were in high school, and none of y'all are remotely good at doing this, all right? Stop being fucking wannabe bullies because you look like, you know, these fucking 4,000 sub channels or whatever that keep doing this shit. Y'all have got to get a fucking life. Because if the only thing that you're doing is trying to be the same kind of bullies that were bullying you in high school, dude, there's actually a show. I watched this the other day, and it also like kind of like, yeah, relax, nerds. I watched this pilot for this show that I had seen forever ago, and it never really took off. It's called Welcome to Eltingville. I think anybody that is currently in the TTRPG hobby would really benefit from watching this thing. We're not going to watch it here, but just so you know what the hell I'm talking about. Here we go. Does it open up on them? They are playing D&D. So it's this cartoon. I'm trying to find if there's like a title screen or something like that. You want to talk about like, holy shit. You want to peek into like what 90s nerd culture, like I say early 2000s, late 80s, like, and 90s nerd culture was like. This show is incredible at capturing what fucking toxic nerds are like. There's like being what Twitter calls toxic, and then there's like, no, this is actually like a miasma of fucking misery that these people spread. And whenever you have people that get online and they act all pissy about the way that like people are playing D&D at games that these people will never fucking play at, it reminds me of this nerdy shit right here. These are nerds that, like, there are certain nerds I fucking love hanging out with. I'm a fucking nerd, all right? I'm a fucking dork, all right? This, my picture's covering the name of it. It's called Welcome to Eltingville. 22-minute pilot. This is what I consider to be the kind of nerd culture that is just fucking disgusting. And like, I don't want to be a part of this, you know? There are people that are upset that D&D nerd culture is not this shit anymore. And it's like, you can still have this, I guess, if you want. If you want to go hang out in your basement and like do this shit, that's on you, I guess. But like, if you're pissed off that this isn't the way that other people are doing this anymore, like, sorry about you, but like, find something better to do with your time, or your whole life or whatever. Like, this show is incredible at capturing that weird fringe that exists, you know? Yeah, and a big part of the reason why, like, some of this nerd culture or whatever didn't really catch on is because this show is also showing you how anti-inclusivity, or like, just like, hey, we're keeping, we want people to like enjoy the other things that we enjoy. This is like showing you what you originally might have thought was just like nerds being nerds and like showing off like, oh yeah, this kind of trivia right here it's fucking gatekeeping, you know? If they just stayed offline, they only talked to their shitty friends, they could have a silly experience. I guess, right? But it's also like more misery bestows misery, you know? Like hurt people kind of shit. You should see this pilot if you're like, okay, well, I don't really understand where a lot of the like anger comes from in the like D&D space, because this is not the entire D&D space. In fact, I would go to say that this probably represents less than 1% of total like D&D fandom. These are the kinds of people who are upset that something that they thought was cool back then is mainstream. And it's like, get the fuck over it. Like, you can't do anything about that. And the fact that you're mad about that just goes to show the reason why people were avoiding you back in high school or whatever. There's some martyr syndrome in there too. Maybe, could you maybe explain what you mean by that? Way back, hey, what up, Dennis? Came in at a weird time. The crucial mistake these people make is trying to make their subjective experiences into universal rules. Bingo! Fucking bingo! For as many people that keep saying, like, hey, stop telling us what to do, stop telling us what to do, god damn, they sure have a really bad habit of trying to tell other people what to do. You know? Like, I've been like, like, if somebody's like, well, Taron, it seems like you've told other people what to do. No, fucking no, I haven't. You know, like, if I have, then it might have been, like, speaking off riff or something. But whenever I'm, like, preparing a message or whatever, if I'm, like, sitting there with scripted thoughts, fuck, no, I do what I can to keep in mind, like, don't do that on the internet. Like, that's just, like, if you want to be a content creator, that's the number one thing I would say, is learn to cull that from your behavior. Like, stop trying to tell people what to do, right? You have to come off as just like, hey, I'm just one guy here on the internet. Here's that opinion. Let me know what you all think down in the comment section below. Right? Like, you want to know the number one best thing you can do about that is like that advice of saying, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And like, I don't know, let me know what you guys' thoughts is down there. Number one, it's great for engagement, but number two, it's like, hey, that is your defense right there, because people are going to like you a lot more if they feel like you're willing to hear them out, or like you don't think that your opinion is the perfect one. Yeah. Yeah, backseat gamers and stuff, yeah. Yeah, let's see how many people that upsets right there. But by the way, this is not exclusively like a reactionary YouTuber thing. This is also a problem with like puritanical progressivism that's happening in the TTRPG industry, where they're like, you know, well, people are including these themes in their game and they shouldn't do that. And it's like, well, you know what? Like, you can't really do anything about that. Like, and the fact that you're out here saying that, you know, whatever, it's just going to make you miserable. You know, like, you do what you want to do, I guess, but like the fact that you're telling other people, like, you can't include this as a theme or whatever, I'm going to tell you straight up, like, you're only making yourself miserable by doing that, you know? Like, it doesn't really go great for the cause. You know, if you actually believe in like real progressive movement or what the hell ever, focusing in on what these like microcosms in the TTRPG scene are doing, it's just not good for your brain. So long as it's not talking about shit like human rights, I completely agree. That can become a slippery slope. I do generally agree with you there, where I'm like, yeah, everyone deserves the basic rights of like, you know, yeah. I don't think in this space we necessarily have a whole lot of like human rights violations really happening. And I think whenever it does come up, it mostly gets universally expunged and like rejected. The only time I can personally recall something that I would say is, yes, objectively, that is fucking atrocious, needs to be gotten rid of, is the Star Frontiers New Genesis thing, at least in recent memory, by the way. The whole, like, this black race, their intelligence can't go above a 9, and then all the Nordic ones, they get a 13 or above to every stat, and it's like, that's literally what people were fucking saying is a problem with this. And like, you also, by the way, like that creator that was just like straight up and up had like a Nazi blog. It was like, fucking like, the fuck, man? Like, yeah, if people are calling you a Nazi, but you're over here calling yourself one, and then you're complaining that people are calling you a Nazi, it's like, wait, but like, you were down with that. Like, I don't fucking understand it, man. Oh god. And of course that is like one case. Yes, there have been multiple different instances of like content that is not super great to be going into a TTRPG. I got it. I'm also exhausted at fighting that fight, and then whenever that fight gets fought, and then watching people that view because you fought that fight, you're a shitster or what? Oh my god, I don't even know, dude. I'm so much happier being a guy that just focuses on making shit online. You know, yeah. Wait, what? Trying to associate with the LGBT community? Well, like, everything is going to be context dependent, all right? Like, but mostly what I can just give is like I said, advice for like navigating this scene, navigating this industry or whatever, or navigating the online space. At least what's worked out for me is like, if there's a fucking problem going on, then I'm like, okay, we talk about this issue, right? The where you start making an ass out of yourself, and how I made an ass out of myself, is that like something that could be easily cleared up and most likely is not that significant of a problem as Twitter is making you believe it is. Reporting on that in the same way, you know, whatever. That's where it's like the overstatement of harm we should really start looking at that as the same equivalence of bad as misinformation. I personally think like overstatement of harm is just it's become such a we are breaking down our barriers of communication. Seriously, we're gonna get to a point where like if I can't just like we have to be able to talk and use words with each other. We have to. Yeah. As a Swede, you can confirm culturally you're late bloomers as well. Here's the deal though, like here in America, like things are so fucking weird and twisted around like, well, here's how people that say here in America we should be viewing these issues. And then because my Discord has like over 1,000+ people or whatever in it, and I hear all these different perspectives on like what things are like in Mexico, South America, people that are over in France, that are there's a couple people that are in China that are over in my Discord, where I hear about like people that just seem to be confused about like they watched my or they watched one of my streams and they're really confused why people think that this is that big of an issue. It's like, oh well, yeah, that is kind of a America thing. Yeah. Huh. And oh god, another thing. And this is the last of this little soapbox, you know. But best piece of advice I ever got on any of this. It's essentially this is a stay in your lane kind of a thing. But like this is quote unquote stay in your lane, but also I'll phrase this in a way to where this is, yeah. I've seen multiple creators kind of overstep on this, and it's worth keeping in mind anytime that you see an issue kind of going on. Don't speak on behalf of other people. Like, if you're not part of an affected group and you want to be like an ally for like that cause or whatever, be an advocate, right? But to say that something is universally a problem because, you know, like to my honky ass brothers and sisters out there, one of the best things you can do as a progressive is shut the fuck up and ask somebody like, hey, everything cool? Like, you doing all right? Or like, you know, something like that. But if you go on a tirade about like, this person did this thing that was racist and yada, 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 you could have an opinion that is formed by the perspective of one individual who maybe has a personal problem with another person. And they are maybe overstating harm. And you're going to make an ass out of yourself whenever you start trying to make statements like, well, because I've spoken with many like people of color about this issue. Oh my God, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, stop. Stop. Going on the white savior kind of thing. Cringe. Cringe as fuck. Doesn't work. Best thing you can do, advocate for it. Let people know, like, hey, what can I do to help? Listen. It's about the, and yeah. But also progressives have got to be in the mindset of like, hey, you can't hold everyone that's in a disparaged group as if like what they're saying is absolute 100% gospel. There are some people who have weaponized their identities online, and like, so it's all going to come with some nuance. So like, yeah, I think for most people, it comes down to, we have to admit that it is a tricky landscape to talk about these things, and somebody doing a misstep at any point, or like somebody just being like, hey, you know what, I thought this was whatever, doesn't deserve the fucking flagellation that happens in this scene. And honestly, just like, chill with it. Chill, make shit, right? So far, I think in all the crazy shit we've had going on in this community, I've heard of 0 instances of violent action being taken against another person. I think real violent action. I mean, actual physical violence, not saying don't report issues as they occur, but also just like, these things are not as clear cut as, if we disavow this person in the community, they can never do any harm. Did we mentioning old weapon names? Same vibe as I have a black friend. Yup. Big ol' I have a black friend energy right there. Yeah. American political diaspora is a whole combo that can't be had here. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that was another thing that made me realize, like, I have to kind of like, I gotta just smoke one and kick back and be like, I just don't need to say shit here. Like, legit, there's plenty of times where I'm like, look, there may be a situation here, but like, honestly, is it worth starting anything over? There's real crises happening that do happen and are worth, we actually, one of the things that I think that we did over on the server that I do think was a good time to do this with was, whenever there were so many states that were talking about banning trans people in different whatever, they weren't allowing for like gender transition therapy or access to like medication or whatever. That was a time in which we lifted a ban on political discussions happening, because I was hoping that people would feel, if they, like, maybe they could find a resource or something like that in the server, or like they're experiencing this kind of an issue, and like we just wanted to stand in solidarity with our brothers, sisters, and everything in between and outside, and also within and outside at the same time, right? That was a time where it was like, all right, so we're gonna lift this ban, and that's it, just to be able to say like, hey, we're showing solidarity, and also because I don't think that somebody advocating for their own rights or something is necessarily a political discussion, right? I think like politicizing somebody's identity is also not great. So that was a discussion that we had amongst, mods and stuff, and decided to lift it. We love using progressive topics as a proxy for personal grievances. It just muddies the waters. Yup. Sure as shit. 100%. Yeah, fortunately, a lot of the people that have done that in the TTRPG scene are gone or like just don't get work. Because like, I mean, we just recently saw this shit happen with Gabe Hicks, you know. Gabe had for a long time been, you know, behind closed doors working with people, and then at the same time talking shit about them to industry professionals or whatever. And then people were finding out about like all this after Gabe got, you know, exposed. And it was like, well, yeah, this does happen. Like, this is somebody that was doing fucking crab bucket shit of like, this guy's about to get up out of the bucket. I'm gonna pull his ass down to make sure I can get out, right? Like, that's how they think about this whole entire scene. So, like, if you think that the way that you get ahead is this Ayn Randian fucking, I'm gonna step on this other person's, like, head so I can get above in this world, like, you're gonna wind up finding yourself in the same spot that Gabe Hicks is in right now. Like, yeah, eventually that shit comes out. It will. So just don't do it. Like, don't. You know, like, it reminds you of leftist Twitter having the exact same combo when a progressive was talking about hitting the gym and people were trying to tell this group about this and this. Like, well, what about this group and this and this? Completely, wait. About hitting the gym and people were like, well, what about this group and this group and this? Completely missed the point. Oh, like, they were talking about getting fit and they were trying to insert, like, what about these people that couldn't go to the gym, and don't you think you're doing harm to them by, like, posting that you can go to the gym, and now we're all upset because you're going to the gym? And if that's it, then, yeah, fuck those people. Fuck the people who tried to, like, start shit over someone being like, hey, I'm making an improvement to my life. I'm trying to get in decent shape so I can, like, you know, live beyond 55 years old. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that plays out. Straight short sword. There should be a rapier. Scimitar. Parrying shield, buckler. Straight longsword. That should be a longsword. Straight short sword. This should be a rapier. Rapier. Bought it. Thank you, chronic sword. You want to make everything about themselves? Shouldn't spend so much time on the internet. Yup. Very fun combo. Let us get away from this topic now. Hey, with these streams, if I'm on here, it's kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen in chat. And it just, if it just stays to just like, we're going to be looking at an InDesign document all the time. I also think this is a big reason why, a lot of people will come to my streams is like, it's not just like, there's game design. It's just, there's actual conversation happening. And it's not so, I don't know, stuck to one particular thing. Chronic had a really, really good piece of feedback, and I am agreeing with this. How fucking interesting. So what Chronic said, he took a note that all the weapons that had the cleave property is actually a slash weapon. A weapon that deals slash damage. And like, I actually really agree with that. And I hadn't really thought of it through the lens of like, depending on what the damage type is, it gets a property that you might kind of expect it to have. So with longsword, I like the idea that everything that does slash, or a lot of things that have slash, have cleave. I really dig that. Looking at, like, Greatsword. It has heavy and keen. What if keen was the thing for pierce? Or we say it's either... Like, keen is on every sword. How big is cleave? Oh, they have to be, like, right next to each other. And it halves the damage. Tangents into insanity are also worth tuning in. I mean, hey, you know, oh, they said coffee and Vagabond on the stream, right? Yeah, that was coffee. Okay. Looking at more editing notes. I really like that idea. I don't know if it would be implemented fully, but I do like the idea. And that actually goes a long way to distinguish this. Yeah, quite cool. Got any bleeding mechanics? No. I was actually talking about this with Onyx a little while ago. Okay. I don't think recurring damage instances are actually all that effective in TTRPGs. Recurring damage instances that are like bleeding or bloodied or whatever, I don't think that is fantastic at conveying like a mortal wound or something. Yeah, bloodied is already a bleed status, to be honest. Yeah. To me, if you're like, what does a hit point represent, right? I try not to overthink that. I think that a lot of the discussions around what does it mean to have a hit point, and this must mean stamina, and therein are narrative around specifically like health and everything in this game. Oh, I just get fucking snoozy. So like, to me, what it means to most people and the way that they're gonna narrate it is, you just got fucking hit with a blade and that cut you, you know. Oh, that was 10 minutes late? Wait, oh, you were 10 minutes late. Oh. So, like, some people care quite a bit about what the narrative of a hit point is. Now, for me, I'm thinking about, whenever I've designed this game, I've thought about, like, what do people think that aren't philosophers of TTRPGs? I'm making a game for them, right? I'm trying to approach this from the people who were like, hey, I played Monopoly before, but what the hell is this? You got a book in your game? That's for nerds. I'm making a game for them, all right? I need to figure out what that person thinks happens if an attack hits them. They're going to think, oh, I would think that deals damage. Fucking right. That's what it does, you know? So, like, they don't care so much about what the narrative of me taking that damage is. If they go like, oh no, you gashed out my arm, they don't need a mechanical representation from that other than like health go down, you know. You try turning on the goofy goblin gamer brain for the playtest. Yeah, right? And you did a great job, you fucking Roomba with a shield, you know? Keeping health a bit more abstract is generally better for a game like this. Kind of bleed, it disrupts that narrative. Yep, exactly. I think that there is a level of crunch that essentially makes a game to where, like, I am cutting out who my audience is. And I am trying to turn on the part of my brain that goes the like, oh, hit stuff with stick. Yes. That's, yeah. Nakey Jakey reference? What was it? It was unintentional. I don't know actually who that is, but like, yeah, what was it? Because maybe I like somehow subconsciously picked it up from somebody else who got it from Nakey Jakey. Now I'm painfully curious. Yeah, thinking about what each, yeah. Oh, Goofy Goblin Gamer Brain. Oh, okay. Yeah, I try not to think so far as to like, whenever I designed Vagabond, I was trying to think of the things not that absolutely interest me right now. I was trying to think about like whenever I first got into TTRPGs, what I thought was super cool, right? Like what I thought intrigued me about the game. And that's what I wanted to design around. And I also tried to pull back and think about like, okay, how can we express all of those cool things, but also still make it approachable and realize that like most players are not going to be the kinds of people who probably go heavy on the crunch. And that's kind of what I'm banking this game on, is I thought that this game would be a good one to like get somebody into this hobby with and not make things just completely inaccessible by like looking at a character sheet and just going like, ugh. You don't know how many times I've made major design decisions based off of how fucking bloated out a character sheet looked. Like subclasses getting canned because I was seeing what 10th level character sheets looked like, and I was like, looks like a 5e sheet, huh? Gotta fucking get rid of something. And boy, did that ever make a huge difference. Like, yeah. Jakey's got fun bids. Oh, okay. Video games have enough damage over time effects that most people will understand it fine. They just won't want to have to remember to apply it every time it's every round. Yeah, that's the thing. Some people might think I'm going to remember that all the time every round, so it's fine for me to add it into this game. But that's you. That's not everyone, right? Like the healer, you do enjoy that fantasy realism personally, though. I don't know what the realism really kicks in there is, you know, like what the like what that's supposed to mean, I guess. Bloat is part of the reason why perks are now getting odd levels now, right? Yep. It used to be every level you could pick from either a perk or a stat improvement. And yeah, that was also causing the same problem. So then I cut that back to where it was even odd, even odd, even odd. You know, you alternate. Here's a stat improvement. Here's a perk. Here's a stat improvement. Here's a perk. Whatever. It's also what led to me cutting out harrying at 5th level. So, yeah. You didn't join the last 10th level place. This was how overwhelming the character sheet got. Yep. It's getting cut. Or, well, it did get cut. And now, so letting you all know basically where I'm at with the game. I'm going to see kind of some reactions to this, too. Where did this go? Google Doc, where you at? Thank you. All right. Yes, I'm very happy with the hero record now. Okay. So let me tell you guys what I'm thinking about doing and get some takes on this. Okay. So, I talked about some of the issues I had about releasing the game in its current state, mostly revolving around art production isn't quite there just yet. I don't have a major publisher at the moment. And I've got meetings and stuff I want to do. I've got some things scheduled out, but I don't have anybody on lock just yet, nor the financial means, nor the not the confidence, what's the right word there. It would be risky for me to be putting any money from making a book into artwork. That would start cutting into production that I'm only getting estimates of, not specifically like a locked in quote, right? So what I had the idea of the other day as I was pricing some of this stuff out, doing a prototype softcover. This would be kind of like what Pathfinder did with their playtest. So for those of you that aren't familiar, what Pathfinder wound up doing, or what Paizo I guess wound up doing. Let me get a drink real quick. Okay. So Pathfinder had a playtest launch. This was Pathfinder playtest books that you would actually need to go buy that had the game text that they were working on. This was not the final book. You were made aware that this was not the final book, right? And they still had people that were buying it to see what was happening with the game. Now, here's what I'm thinking about doing. The prototype softcover is a sort of like quote-unquote soft launch. There's pros and cons to doing it this way. Okay. Here, we'll just get rid of this one. We'll just do it all in one. Thank you. Alright. 1. Helps to raise money for additional production costs. 2. Shows publishers gives publishers a better estimate for expected customers, right? Expected sales, expected revenue generated, all that good business. If we make a number of books, here's what we can expect of people that showed that they were interested enough to get in on the prototype itself, right? Here's the other huge benefit to this. As this would be a softcover launch, as I was pricing this out, I'm just going to show you guys. Hardcover. Cheapest print margins I got for a hardcover, if I'm remembering this right, it was like around that, like $12.50 per book, right? Or no, sorry. I was putting this here for consistency. Okay. So this is expected print margins. What this means is this is the cost that it would take to print the book, right? That's just printing it. We're not talking about distribution, cost of labor, anything quite like that on my end, just for handling this shit, right? You know, it looks like a $70 book to you. Yeah. This is not the price of the book that I would charge. This is what it costs to make the book, right? So just so you all know what my take home would be on that, if I was handling everything, fulfillment, all of that, let's say I do a prototype softcover for $20 a book, right? So 20 minus, that's looking at like what, $11.50 per book? Softcover. Because I got to figure out my price range on this. Like, so price point, especially because it's a prototype softcover. Let's say I even did it at like fucking $15 a book, right? There's advantages to that too. It's not just like I'm undercutting myself here. So like price point, let's say $15. Hardcover. I'm looking at a take home of what, $150 per book? No, $250 per book? Fuck that. For a prototype softcover, right? We're at that point we're looking at like, what is that, $650 per book? Not bad. Not bad. If somebody picks up a bundle of 4 of them for like their group or whatever, we're looking at like, okay, we made $24 off of that. It's not bad. It's not very good though. There's a term that investors use, or I say investors, marketing guys use, called CAC. All right? CAC. Customer acquisition. Might even be like CCAC. It's cost of. There we go. So this is how easy or how expensive is it for me to convert over like whatever money I spent on the thing into money generated. Okay. Ideally, if you're working in this space, you would hope for a CAC of 3 times what you spent on acquiring that customer, right? If you want to be profitable, that's what they recommend. So ideally, your CAC should be 3 times what 3 times as big as whatever you put into it. All right, you want a big CAC. All right, so if I'm looking at like softcover print, $8.49 per book, I can't just look at that and go, oh yeah, times 3. So what? $8.49 times 3. That's like 24 something, right? 25, 26 something. I was a fucking jazz studies major, all right? Get off my back. 25.47. So, who knows why this isn't absolutely great? Who can tell me? You're only listening to the stream? Yes. You're welcome. Who can tell me why this is not actually true to CAC right there? So my price point is 3 times as much as what I put into it, right? But am I actually making 3 times as much money on a return on that? Let's hear it, chat. What's going on with this? How much money am I actually making here? Anybody. I like being in the teacherly role, all right? Shipping costs also, well, that's the thing is the customer pays that. So we don't pay that. That's on the customer. That customer is always assumed to have the shipping costs and everything, unless we can get everything to a point of where they don't have to pay the shipping. Not taxes either. It cost me this much to make it, right? So we look at this number over here and we're thinking, yeah, I sold it for that much, right? What are we forgetting? Anybody? Oh, come on. I don't want to just give you guys the answer. Let's hear it. We scared off all business majors with the combo earlier. Yeah, probably. They thought that this was a career risk. Anybody? Guys, how much money did I make off of this right here? You all tell me. Because here's my print margin, right? How much money did I make? Aha! Is the publisher cost included in the $8.49? You all aren't accounting for overhead. Overhead per book. This is why fucking business gets complicated. Right? You have to remove the card upfront cost plus distribution fees. Let me show you how much money we actually made per book if we price it at 3 times as much. We're actually making $16.98 per book. Not bad, but that means our CAC is actually only 2 times as big. All right. This is actually not great. So you want to actually price out your product at 4 times what it costs to make. Unfortunately, you hear that's average size? We all tell ourselves that, all right? So with this, what you actually should be doing is times 4. If you're wondering why things have gotten so expensive as of lately, it's because it's gotten more expensive to make them. It's not a great answer, I'm aware, but so cost of acquisition on this, $33.96. This right here is that perfect sized CAC, all right? So, if this customer was buying this product right here, right? I would still think that my cost of acquisition, this customer right here, is still potentially turning into a sale of another book in the future. If they get the prototype and it's priced this cheap, and they're like, oh, there's a lot in here that I really, really like. And this game, I'm seeing the development of it, and I like what's happening right here. And in the future, I could still probably use this book for some stuff. And like, if there's any major changes, I can just write it down in here. Okay. Cool. So what I'm thinking about doing is a soft launch of a prototype softcover, right? And this would be helping to raise a bit of money for more artwork that would go into a, like, here is the first edition. Boom. Right? It's just a concept right now. I'm trying to see what people would think about this. Because think about getting the Vagabond rulebook, like, on your doorstep. You have a physical thing, and it's at least the rules for you to play, and have at your table IRL that isn't on a PDF reader. And then if you find that there's some issues or whatever, you can let us know. And then whenever we get ready for the hardcover, that's where this becomes a bigger, badder monster. Because I don't just want to do a softcover run and be like, we made our thing. I want it to be an accessible game that launches a product line that feels like people knew that this was for a tabletop role-playing game. What I mean by that is the hardcover, ideally the first edition launch, And I hate calling them additions. I really do, but like that's just where we are, I guess. Player core. Okay. Oh god, this eye patch is like loose today. So I would love to have a slipcase. Okay. Boom. I would love to have a first edition launch that was like a player core book, GM core book, Emergent World. Okay. GM core book, current bestiary. There would, of course, the ones that applied to character options would be in the player core book for the druid, you know, and I guess anyone that picks up animal companion. But the current bestiary, quests, probably sections on guidelines for like running the game, you know. How would you expect people to get character sheets having them printed, or would you include some? I mean, there'd be some that are included in here, but like I'm just gonna have that up and available online somewhere that it'll be there forever. Okay. So here's the other side of this, because I've talked about licensing and all that stuff. As grim as this sounds and as dark for a second, let me kind of get into this. I don't know that this is going to really impact many of us here, but because of the issue that we saw with the OGL, I feel like it's kind of important to think towards the future as game designers and what all we're doing. Really, what is our purpose here? So I have the OGL situation turned me major, like big fuck you corpo. And what I have kind of settled on here, I've been asked about a license for Vagabond and what all that is going to be. So here's the way that this is going to break down. Third-party license, okay? Here's what you need to know. Vagabond will have a release of responsibility for third-party content. What does this mean? That is me saying I cannot stop anybody from making whatever the fuck it is that they're going to make. If they say that they got inspired by this thing right here, and they were like, yeah, this is a Vagabond thing, I'm like, nah, fuck you. I had nothing to do with that. You have to make it really, really clear. I did not officially write that thing. I didn't endorse it. If you say that it is official, I will get a lawyer on your ass, right? So, my release of responsibility is like, if someone ever comes at me with the energy of like, hey, you should really do something about this hateful content people are making with your game, the best I can say is like, I didn't make it though. Like, I mean, somebody made that? Okay, I can't stop them. Like, that's them. That's not on me, right? But it just helps to have that shit in writing, right? You will keep... Why did I just stop playing? Uh-oh. Internet? Was it just that one? Are we good? Are we still live? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Weird. I don't know why that stopped. Oh, good. Okay. Still live. Okay, thank you. Don't forget to add fingertips in the cack. Yeah, that's true. You will keep 100% of the royalties you generate. Through the market, you generate, without, yeah, what's the right word here? You generate, without my support. Okay. What this means is, like, I can't say you will keep 100% of the royalties you generate, because then that comes up with a weird issue with people that are like, well, but like over on DriveThruRPG, they take their other cut, and like this doesn't seem like it's appropriate with that right there. No, that's just I am not doing anything to like make you money, right? You're not using my marketplace, my storefront for anything like that. Yeah. All proceeds from Vagabond third party go to funding Maoist revolutionaries in third world countries. Good to see you, dude. How you doing, Crow? You're gonna keep 100% of the royalties you generate without my support. Okay, so this one has come up in a couple of conversations. I've kicked this one around a little bit here. Whatever this would wind up being. Okay, so I've talked about this. I've thought this through. I've talked with Amanda about it as well, because this is the big worry right here. A lot of people are like, super based, put everything in the Creative Commons. I think that a lot of times whenever people do this, they are acting very hastily, and because they are not really valuing themselves and their work very highly. CC by, share alike, okay? Whenever Wizards of the Coast put the 5e SRD in the Creative Commons, they are a mega corporation that is already making so much money that, like, even by doing that, they are not losing money to do that, right? Me, on the other hand, if I were to do this as an independent creator, I starve, okay? So, there are some aspects of Vagabond I am looking into doing CC by SA, because I think it's worth it to put out there, okay? I haven't really determined what all of that would be, but just letting you guys know that is something I'm thinking of. But here's the big deal. Here's the, yeah. All right. I will create a will that states, upon my death, Vagabond completely enters the Creative Commons into perpetuity. Bam! Now, have I considered eating spare books? So what this means right here. This is a thing that I am forging into fucking stone. I do not want to have any situation happen like what happened with the OGL. I don't know what Vagabond is ever going to become. Whatsoever. But part of me bringing on a lawyer for all the stuff with Vagabond will be to forge a document that says this right here. This is not a thing that I can ever revoke. This is not a thing that anyone will ever be able to revoke, because it will be a part of my will. Okay? My fucking will. Where I say, this thing that I helped to create, I put everything into the Creative Commons. But that is contingent upon my demise. Now I realize this. There's some people that might think, Taron, does this put a bullet on your back, or bullet target on your back, or anything quite like that? I think that would be a very weird reason to kill me. I think everything else is very generous here. So like, I don't know. But anyways, so this will is just basically saying straight up, Vagabond. You don't have to wait. Haters sending hit squads as we speak. You don't have to wait the death of the creator plus 20 years or anything like that with me. All right. The moment I fucking kick the bucket, Vagabond goes into Creative Commons. Yeah. Yeah, there much been a reason. Yeah, there much been a reason to shoot me, right? Like funsies. So, that is the thing that I think felt the most like, you know what? Here's the thing that I made while I am still inhabiting this planet. Then I can still create shit for it, and I still have somewhat of a control over this. But also, I won't run into the issue of like seeing what has happened to some creators that have lost control of their property. Oh yeah, by the way, um, boy, you wanna see how wild this shit right here can get? Go look at what's happening with Peter S. Beagle right now, the creator of The Last Unicorn. Um, Holy hell, he got locked into a horrific contract with his publisher. Um, and I am saying with any publisher, straight up, um, I can make stuff for this game that I'm doing, that I've created here. You all are on board as some people who are getting a game to print, and that's basically it. You gotta wait. You can't put anything into Creative Commons. You probably mean the public domain. Wait. Actually, you can't put into Creative Commons. Huh? Yeah, Your Honor, I wasn't rich and famous when I wrote my will. Yes, right? Yeah, so this is like whenever, like, Taron is driving around his fucking Lambo and doing the, alpha male grift here in, 10 years. That asshole can't revoke this part right in here, right? Um, I need this. This will be like out of my control. So yeah, but basically, this is a preventative measure from anything that I think creators make getting into the hands of a corporation that will try to get away from their vision. Legally speaking, Creative Commons is an organization that creates licenses. When you release something under a CC license, you keep the copyright. Wait, really? Wait, yeah, you keep the copyright. Right. Um, that, right. My thing is, I am, I am hesitant on people kind of just reproducing the rule set. What is happening with Spotify? That is the second time that's happened. It like just randomly stops playing music. How weird. I don't know what's going on with that. I still want to be able to keep control of the game. I still need to be able to keep control of this game. And by control, I mean I still need to eat and be sure that I can still make stuff, right? Not to nitpick here, you'll elaborate on this, Kurt. I appreciate it. So I think Creative Commons feels a little murky, like even right now. And maybe at the time that I create this will, I'll have a better understanding as to why I should just maybe go on ahead and admit it at the time. But insofar as what we've talked about and like my understanding of it, this sounded like the route that seemed like the good idea. If it's just dropping it into public domain, like I just say Vagabond's mechanics are dropped into the public domain, I also need to look into if I could do that. Because I don't know if like you can say that, well, because my game uses D20, we can just drop the D20 in the public domain. I don't know that you can copyright a D20, but I know that WotC tried to at some point. So, yeah. Now, Now, actually, it is coming up on 2 o'clock, and I just realized I have to be getting ready. It's my nephew's birthday party today. So I gotta go be a good uncle. No, wait, not got to. I get to go be a good uncle. And actually, I gotta figure out where to send you all now. Where are we going? Who's online? We have more tornadoes coming in? Where? Oh, god damn it. Great. Fucking sweet. Oh, Flutes is streaming right now? Fucking sweet. Oh, stop. YouTube, you gotta make it easier for us to redirect people to a different channel. Hell yeah. Alright. Okay, sweet. I'm out of here. I will see you all very, very soon. Go say hey to Flutes and all that good business. Y'all have a great one. I'll be back with more Vagabond and all that good business. Everybody, have a great day. Oh, bye-bye.